Hey, how's it going? Happy Saturday. How's everyone doing? Oh, let me know if the audio's okay. I did some messing around. I always do some messing around. How's it going? Happy Saturday. What's everyone working on? Hey, how's it going? Hope your Saturday's going good. Something's different. Something's different. Maybe it's my mic. I don't know. Hopefully everyone, all right, sounds good. Thanks, Farhan. Appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully everyone's doing good. Hopefully everyone is having a decent Saturday. For some reason, I like to talk about the weather in the beginning. So weather across at least the Midwest is kind of cloudy and cool. I like it though. It is here cloudy and cool here in Minnesota. We've had like rain for like 4 days straight. I think it's finally going to let up. But decent weather for spring. All right, Tech Freak 2, thank you. Appreciate it. Sounds different to me. Maybe it's my headphones. I'm not sure. But yeah, how are you guys doing? What projects are you working on? What can I help with? I mean, the same kind of stuff I ask all the time, but I'm genuinely interested in what I can help with. I know that, a lot of people are digging into to Rancher, to Kubernetes, to Docker, to Portainer. Speaking of Portainer, I doubt they're in here. I doubt Neil's in here. But Portainer sent me a shirt. I should show it off real quick. Which way do I go? This way. Hey, thanks for the shirt, Portainer. Appreciate it. And thanks for the great product, too. But anyways, yeah, lots of people are working on containerization, virtualization, hypervisors, clustering. I released something today on cluster monitoring that's super kind of complicated, but Rancher makes it super easy. So yeah, generally interested in what you got going on. And I know last week we talked about, kind of diagramming. I did diagram and talk about my new cluster, which is an etcd-based K3s cluster, all because my cluster started dying. And it's all my own doing too, not any fault of K3s or Kubernetes or Rancher or MySQL or anything like that. It's all because of me, because I tried to be, a database administrator and tried to get some replication going, and I did it terribly. I did it the wrong way. I followed a guide and just did it, implemented it, didn't do a ton of testing, created some tables, created a database, created some rows, dropped a table, it worked. So I was like, yeah, let's do this, and ran it in production. I would highly recommend, if you plan on clustering, to do it on a test database first and let it run for a little bit. But anyways, yeah, how's it going? Happy Saturday. I kind of have not as much going on as I've had the last couple of weeks. So I'm like, this morning I just had a little bit of extra time, and I was like, wow, I'll actually start programming and write some code for something that I haven't, kind of been putting off for a while. So it was kind of nice. But I'd love to know what I can help with and what you guys are working on. So first of all, a couple of things. Let's talk about first there were a couple follows and even a resub. Right before we got started. So I'll call these out real quick. Well, first, JMO. I don't know whether to say JMO or JMO. I kind of like JMO. I'll go with that. Tier 1, 2 months. Dude, thank you so much for the continued support. Really appreciate it. I'm going to step back a little bit because it's a little more comfortable back here. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much. Dude, thank you. Well, dude, iLood, man. Dude, iLood, man. You didn't have to. Dude, thanks so much, dude. iLood. Dude, iLood gifted 5 tier 1 subs. All right. Thank you so much. It's a good day too, because my lights are working. If you were on the stream last time, the thrilling conclusion of what happened last time. If you're here last time, and I had some problems with my lights and my code and my bots, and I thought for sure, I fixed it. Well, I did fix it. So I wrote some code right before we went live. The code was actually to fix my Twitch token because it expired and I don't have the greatest refresh token code yet implemented. And then from there, I deployed the code and went live, and I thought for sure, I was like, yeah, it's going to work. Well, it didn't work. The reason why it didn't work wasn't my code. It ended up being GitLab was having problems, and I couldn't, it never built the Docker container to deploy it to my cluster. Anyways, lights are working today, bots are working today. And I think, PCK, how's it going? He refunded everyone who had spent points last week, I think. So I appreciate that too. But points are back up. Everything's back up for now. You know how it goes though. But dude, Homelab new, dude, thanks so much, dude, for the tier 1 9 months. Dude, 5 months straight, dude. Thank you so much. But real quick, iLoot, dude, thanks for 5 gifted subs, dude. Thank you so much. You really didn't have to. I really appreciate it, man. Gifted 5 tier 1 subs. First one goes to Angel of the Odd. Next goes to Shanks, Emma DeBomb, Reish, and Pairdlun. Hey, let's thank Ilude for the gifted subs. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Dude, Homelab Nude. Hi, everyone. Dude, how's it going? Dude, thanks again for the continued support. And Marco, 023300. Dude, resub tier 1, 3 months, 3 months streak. Let's go. Thank you so much. Dude, hype train? Man, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. Yes, lights are working. Lights are working. Light Wars. And speaking of Light Wars, I've said this a few times, but I am going to rework some of my things. Some of my, dude, it keeps going. Thank you so much. I am going to rework some of my points and some of my redemptions, or I guess things you can redeem for points, rewards, I guess. I have a couple ideas, and you guys have thrown a couple ideas at me. I need to see how many I can actually do, because I'd like to do a 5 or 6, and we'll see. We'll see if Twitch will let me do it. But dude, Grizzly Bear, dude, thanks for the sub, tier 1, dude. Thank you so much. Thanks so much. All right, everyone's spending their points too for for all the weeks either my bot didn't work or just didn't happen. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Man, thank you. Yeah, enjoy the moats, enjoy the sub, dude. Enjoy the gifted subs, and for you that resub, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Let me grab a drink really quick. I should just do it instead of announcing it. For some reason, I have to give the play-by-play. Like, let me scratch my nose. Let me grab a drink. Anyways, so let's see really quick who is here first. I know you guys like to answer that question, or me to answer that question. Who is here first? It was me testing my bot. As you can see, I did the banana command. That's my test command now. For some reason, I know I can use anything to test my bot, just any exclamation point, and it'll tell me like, hey, that's not a recognized command, but banana is the first one that sticks. So that's how I test my bot now. If it replies, you know it's working. So anyways, I don't count. Mafney first, dude. Thank you so much. How's it going? Mafney, how you doing? Let's see. Thank you. Fix. Yep. What are you guys working on? Farhan, dude, I'm really struggling to find a solid Kubernetes at home setup to start to learn to grow. Man, I hear you. It's tough. A couple suggestions. I mean, I have a whole entire video. I'm not saying like go watch the video, but at high level, I have a video of talking about how to get started with the home lab, and it really boils down to kind of 4 things really. You know, I know you want something dedicated, so the first one doesn't apply to you, because my first suggestion is try virtualization. That's always my first suggestion if you're brand new, but you're obviously looking for a machine that's going to be running 24/7, I think. And if you're not, virtualization, you could start there. You could create another cluster. You could migrate all that stuff to real physical hardware when you're ready. That's totally fine. You know, you just have some virtual nodes and have some physical nodes, and it's totally fine. Kubernetes doesn't care. My second suggestion then is always Raspberry Pi, but it looks like you're having, you know, you're looking to find a solid Kubernetes setup. Raspberry Pi works pretty okay with Kubernetes, with some exceptions. Like embedded etcd is not the greatest unless you're using something other than a micro SD. So, but for all other things, especially agents, like it works great. I run one. It's right over there. I run one as an agent. The third thing I always suggest is use your old PC. So upgrade your current PC so you get all new gear. I mean, now is not the greatest time to upgrade your PC because it's hard to get video cards, it's hard to get CPUs, its RAM cost is going up. Everything's going up. Some hard drives are sold out. It's kind of weird, but we're in this weird state right now. But that's usually my recommendation then is, hey, upgrade your old PC. Your old PC will be a more than capable machine to run some jobs, especially in Kubernetes, some deployments or workloads. Then my third is server. You know, full dedicated server, maybe used enterprise gear, whatever you want to lump into a server. It can be used enterprise gear. It could be, you know, something as simple as a different old PC. Could be, you know, Mac Mini. Those are always great for getting started. Pretty low cost too. If you find the 2012, you know, the late 2012 model of the Mac Mini, that's the best one. I have one. And why is it the best one? Because you can upgrade RAM and hard drive. Nothing is soldered in there. And so those are good options. And so, you know, anything more than that, then like I would look at the cloud, but you probably want it to do it self-hosted. But those are always my recommendations. I'm sure that one of those will fit. But I guess give me some requirements. Like what is it that you're, what workloads are you trying to load? What are you trying to run? How much uptime do you want? How much capacity do you want? I think those things can help. Farhan, hopefully something you address soon. Well, I missed one. Your Rancher video made things a bit more complicated, and new traffic addition and workaround not helping, I assume. Yeah, it's getting traffic working with Rancher and Kubernetes at the same time is challenging. And it took me a while to figure that out. I'm not going to lie. It took me probably a week and a half to get it right and to figure out what needed to happen. And, it was a lot more, complicated than I thought it was going to be. And the complication boils down to is that Rancher ships with a version of traffic, which is normally fine, unless you want to use a different version of traffic, or if you want to use it different in general. And so, I know that's a little bit complicated to get K3s going with traffic too, because you got to kind of undo a couple of things. But if you have a fresh start, you can ignore all of that. That being said, that stuff is still a little complicated. You can try things like Ketchup, and you can try to use, tools to help automate some of those things. I've used Ketchup before. It's fantastic. But I needed something a little more low level so I know exactly what's going on. And so I can just depend on the K3s API to do that. But yeah, I've addressed at least K3s as much as I can for now. Anything outside of there is just going to have to be, hey, let's talk, let's figure it out in Discord. I might have a video later on the etcd version, but at the same time, it's just a different command. It's just a different command. Don't use the MySQL database, but I could be wrong. Maybe in the future. And I said this last night, but I will post some documentation on exactly all of the commands you need to spin up a K3s cluster using etcd. It's in Discord now. It's pinned there, but I'll put it in GitHub so everybody can use it and contribute to it. And if you find problems to it, you can open pull request or let me know. TLG Game, dude, thanks. Has resub Prime 2 months. Thank you so much, dude. Appreciate it. Thank you. Still working on trying to get multi-arch cluster. I can't wait for those docs. Yeah. It's so multi-arch cluster can work just fine. That's as simple as adding another agent to your Kubernetes cluster. So if you have a Raspberry Pi now, and I would probably go agent unless you have more than a micro SD in there, because that let's peel this back. If you're going to use a Raspberry Pi and you want it for a server, not an agent, and you're going to use embedded etcd, you should not use a micro SD card because embedded etcd, as great as it sounds, has a couple of differences, I'll say. I don't know if they're good or bad, but those differences are now your database is hosted on that server, which is totally fine. I run it like that on my servers. But what's not so great sometimes, especially for micro SD or any slower, IO type drive, is that it does a lot of read and writes. It does a lot more network traffic. And, at the same time, now that server needs more RAM and that server needs more compute. And as great as embedded etcd sounds, sometimes, for a Raspberry Pi, it could exceed, some of those requirements. So sometimes, the MySQL version is, would work a little bit better for a Pi if you're doing it as a server because of those reasons. But if you have a USB drive or something else attached, it doesn't matter. Yeah, go for it. But yeah, so multi-arch, I cover that too, but that's really just as simple as one, making sure you have multi-arch images available to you. Most open source, Docker, popular Docker images are already multi-arch supported. And so multi-arch is just multi-architecture supported container images. And what does that mean? That means, hey, my container image can run on x86 and x64, all those types of processors, but at the same time, run on an ARM processor, maybe, ARM v7, v8, 64, 32, ARM 6, whatever. And so most I'll say most, and I use the term loosely. Most container image maintainers have already generated them for you. And then Kubernetes and Docker are smart enough to say, hey, give me this image per my processor type. And then the Docker registry says, here you go, your ARM, you get that image. Your x86, you get that image. So, but yeah, so then if you're going to join, so TLG game, if you're going to join one to your cluster, treat it like anything else. Just imagine it's not a Pi. And what would you do? Well, if you're using K3s, you would, use the command to join another agent to your server with the token, point it at your load balancer, and boom, 30, 40 seconds later, maybe a minute, depending on the speed of your Raspberry Pi, it's in your cluster. But then it will take on workloads too. And so this is one thing I warned to, and I think Dustin in Discord said it a lot better, or more eloquent than I guess I could, is that, if you do end up adding, a low powered device to your cluster, there are some things you need to be aware of. And with any Kubernetes cluster, any agent in your cluster, and this is why I typically make most of mine exactly the same, is that if for any reason any of your agents in your cluster fall over, let's say you have 3 agents, right? That last agent needs to be able to take on the load of all of the workloads that you have running in some. And I mean, it's Kubernetes just being Kubernetes. If you had, let's say, 15 workloads spread across 3 machines, I'll make it easy. Math is hard sometimes. And let's say it's spread out evenly. 5 workloads on each node. Everything's running great. 2 of those nodes go away. Now your last node needs to be able to take on, all 15 of those workloads. And that's assuming it, it doesn't run into disk pressure, has enough disk, has enough compute, has enough RAM. If it doesn't have any of those, then your whole cluster's down. And so that's why, adding more agents in general is a good idea. But at the same time, you need to think about, okay, if everything dies except for this one server that has 1 agent, or maybe it has 2 agents, whatever's left needs to still be able to handle the request, the resource requests of everything else. And maybe that's not important, but just something to keep aware of. I mentioned that only because, I have a Raspberry Pi and I also have a Mac Mini that kind of do similar things. My Raspberry Pi alone is not going to be able to handle everything. If you think of, Rancher, all my workloads, Metal LB, Longhorn, like everything I have installed, traffic. If my other nodes went down, there's no way. I'd basically DOS myself. That Pi would just be toast. And the same goes probably for my Mac Mini. Maybe. I haven't tested it yet. I'm kind of scared to. Just something to keep in mind. Anyways, I went on a long tangent about multi-arch stuff. I'm only saying that just because if you do scale out horizontally, scale out really wide, that's a good thing. And so, but at the same time, just remember that, to kind of group them at least, according to the power they're plugged into or the server that they run on, so that you have a couple nodes, 1 or 2, on the other breaker or the other UPS, or on the other server, if it's virtualized, to take on that workload if the other half goes down. And maybe you just have one and I'm just rambling for no reason. Just something to consider. Something I didn't consider. I thought, hey, this is great. Got a Raspberry Pi. Sweet. Every now and then, my blog jumps on it. Some of my bots jump on it. I'm like, this is awesome. But, when my cluster went down last week and I had all kinds of problems, my Raspberry Pi was trying to run my whole entire Kubernetes workload and it was not happy. I mean, the fan was on like 1,000% and I could barely ping it because it was way too busy. Anyways, things to be aware of, but not be afraid of, just be aware of. Jared, I need help with pod automation of certain post steps for SUSE Linux and SUSE in Rancher. I need help with pod automation of certain post steps for SUSE Linux and Rancher. I don't know exactly what you're asking. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but what steps? Pod automation, post steps. Yeah, let me know. I'd love to talk more about that or understand more of what you're asking. about. I'm asking clarifying questions because I'm not really sure of what the question is that you're asking. I can't think of any pod automation steps. Init containers, I've done some of that, but let me know. Any blast. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Good to see you. Sas Chansky, the NVIDIA drivers got me hacked and kind of SR-IOV enabled. Maybe useful you do. Yeah, I'm so ready for SR-IOV. That's awesome. Well, that they got hacked. I mean, yeah, whatever. But that's super awesome. So yeah, what SR-IOV is just this idea that you can take one resource and divide it up into multiple resources. Why is that interesting to me? Well, I would love to be able to take one of my video cards and divide that one video card up into 4 video cards across my virtual machines or across my workstation. And what does that enable? It enables me to be able to not put 4 video cards in my machine and pass one-to-one through to each virtual machine. It allows me to put in one video card and pass that through to 4 or 5 or 6 or however many virtual machines. So that's super interesting. Didn't know it got hacked. I'm super interested to look at that and just to understand it and know if it's safe. Because I think this is coming. I mean, the writing's on the wall for NVIDIA. They made some big PR move, I think last week, basically to say, yeah, we allow GPU pass-through now on Linux. And, everyone was kind of like, huh? It kind of raised an eyebrow, and they did do it, but there are some caveats. Like you got to have a second video card and all of this stuff. And so it's not, it's basically just GPU pass-through, things we've been able to do already. But I think that opens the floodgates possibly for them allowing SR-IOV. Why do I think that? Well, because I think consumers are starting to demand it. I think even enterprises are starting to demand it. So it's basically behind a paywall right now. What is the paywall? Buy an enterprise computing card from NVIDIA and you get this feature. But I think more and more consumers are starting to want this. The ones that enthusiasts, I guess I should say, are starting to want this. And it sounds really interesting. And Intel has kind of sort of been doing something similar for a while. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope, AMD and Intel are going to put more pressure or drive this to where NVIDIA basically says, yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it. I would love for it. And, other than just virtualizing stuff, in my servers, I would love to use it here for this machine because that would allow me to run Linux as a host and Windows as a guest, which I could do if I had another video card. But I would be able to spin up multiple virtual machines on this machine and share it, my 3090, across all of those VMs. So super interesting stuff. I didn't know it got hacked. I'd be interested in looking at it, maybe in some kind of sandbox where, who knows? But yeah, super interesting. JMO, learning Ansible to set up my new server. Any ideas for creating and destroying new VMs in Proxmox other than a template? Yeah, I mean, you could automate everything from Proxmox. I think there's a Proxmox Ansible playbook where you can use the PVE command or the binary for PVE and do anything you want from there on out. I personally have done templates only because it's super easy. I should invest the time at some point to do it. But you can absolutely, there's an Ansible playbook, I think, for Proxmox that will allow you to do this. And I think Ilud's even done some of this, and he might have been able to post it in our Discord community. We have a community section, community projects section, where people post things that they work on. I think Ilud had one a while back. But yeah, I mean, I use templates too. Am I one day going to convert to Ansible for that? It would be awesome. Would be awesome. Because then, I just totally be like, I don't need a template. My template is, automation. And then all I got to do is adjust that template each time, adjust the Ansible playbook each time I execute it rather than a playbook. Would be cool. It'd be almost like my own imaging system, and I at that same time, then I'd probably switch over to Cloud Init and make it fully automated. Sounds awesome. I don't have anything. I think the community does, but I would love to know when you figure it out. Let me know, because the more I talk about it, the more interesting it sounds. Just been a prioritization game lately. Like, what do I have time to do? But it sounds awesome. Nightingale. I hope Tim will cover weird Docker scenarios like 2 NUC nodes plus white box NAS which is also a node. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, interesting stuff. Like I totally, I'm on the fringes already of most content. Like I'm just like way out in left field most of the time, talking about and doing things that, a lot of people aren't doing. For me, yeah, For me, yeah, I haven't needed, multiple, Nux nodes, with Docker. Because once I get to multiple nodes with Docker, then I'm like, I have Kubernetes. And don't get me wrong, I'm wearing Portainer shirt. I use Portainer. I think I have 4 or 5 instances of Portainer in my environment. And that's because I run some plain old Docker VMs, and what better way to manage plain old Docker than Portainer? There's no better way that I know of. I don't really want to CLI into each or open up the Docker API to outside of localhost and remote execute some stuff there. Sure, it's fine, but not what I want to do. I want to be able to go to a web page, see how my services are doing. Are they doing okay? Do I need to do anything? Do I need to kick them? Do I need to update them? And be gone and be on my way. So, but yeah, super interesting stuff. Tell me more. Bist5 or V, thanks for follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Shout out from Brazil. All right. Yeah. Shout out from US. How's it going? Hey, I got to get this right. Umitsi. I'm going with Hush Umitsi. Hey, thanks for follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Scarlex, hey, is it possible putting together a Proxmox cluster with remote nodes over the internet? Sure. Yeah, absolutely you could. I don't think there's anything stopping you. Latency might be one thing, but I think that might be kind of okay depending on how latent the network is. I mean, my clusters are always localhost, but as long as you can reach it over the internet to join a cluster to it, it should be fine. Should you do that? I don't know. Over the public internet, should you do that? It's a question of can versus should. Can, is it technically possible? Absolutely. Should, I'm not sure. I've never done it. If I were to do it, I would build some kind of tunnel between the two, because I wouldn't want to expose my Proxmox API endpoint, just basically HTTPS out to the world. And I think I don't remember on the key. I think the key uses HTTPS too. Not that I don't trust HTTPS, but I want to limit my attack vector. I want to limit that from happening. So I technically possible, absolutely, but I would probably build a tunnel between the two and have it go through a VPN tunnel. And then, is that introducing too much latency? If you have, a cluster, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. The only other thing you have to consider then too is if you do any kind of live migrations or backups and crisscross, if you have an HA cluster with Proxmox, then you got to take into consideration the time it takes and, the upload speed if you're going to do any kind of live migration backups or HA type stuff, right? Because it's going to have to pull, that image off of whatever it's running on, or if you share, storage, that's all of a sudden going to be over a slower network over the internet. So interesting to think about. Sounds interesting for sure. I've never tried it. Should work. Technically possible. Is it can you versus should you? Can you? Yes. Should you? Yeah, that's debatable. M-Da-Bomb, been making a simple CRUD API for a to-do list. Been trying to do some every day to push every day. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, push. Well, get push, but you mean push towards your goal. That's awesome. I would say M-Da-Bomb, that is super awesome. I would say if you ever, as you're doing now to most people, if you're ever going to get into software development, especially web development, really, really understand how to use CRUD APIs, but also create them. Especially, if you're creating APIs, you got to know CRUD. So create, update, delete, all your verbs for your HTTP, your, get, push, post, delete, push. What am I talking about? Put. Post, delete, all of those HTTP verbs that, initiate, CRUD actions on the back end, you got to know them inside and out. So keep doing it and keep pushing on, because that's really good to know. And even if you're just going to get into front end, it's still great to know that. Because you won't always be front end. There will be a time, even if you are front end, where it's like, okay, you got to either debug something in an API or you got to run the API locally. And so it's always great to know those things. So yeah, keep pushing. Awesome. Farhan, sounds good. All right. Tech Freak 2, sounds good, Tim. All right. Hey, all right. Deadly Dragon. Hey, Tim, how's it going? Good to see you. Scarlax, we're doing better now. Now it started. Thank you. Yeah, little late start today. Farhan, raining loads in my southern Indian Ocean island. Nice. Yeah, is it rainy season over there? Is it rainy season? I can't remember if it's rainy season there now. I think it's maybe not. Hold on, sorry. All right, we'll see if that fixes it. It's something in my throat. T-Genial 2K. Hey Tim, sounds good. All right. That's audio feedback. Mods represent. Thank you. I would appreciate it, man. Let's see. Deadly Dragon. Working on Rancher at the moment. I have 3 nodes that are stuck waiting on a node controller. Huh, interesting. Oh, Scarlax, dude, thank you. Subscribe to you, tier 3. Dude, thank you so much. Dude, tier 3's up. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Scarlax. How are you? How are things going? Thanks. Wow, tier 3. Thank you. Deadly Dragon, 3 nodes are stuck on waiting on node controller. They must not be able to communicate with each other. Either that or they can't communicate with, I'm assuming with each other. Have they ever been able to communicate with each other? And I assume these are probably your first 3 nodes. I've noticed if you're doing Rancher, how did this work? If you're doing Rancher, if you're spinning up a second cluster from Rancher, I've noticed that sometimes that screen does not progress until you add both a server and an agent. So, one that does, at least one that just takes workloads, and at least one that does etcd and control plane. For some reason, that screen will not let you get past, it basically won't create the cluster, which to me it's kind of like, I get it. You need one of each type of role or responsibility. I usually lump the 2 together, etcd and control plane. But you need one of each type, if that's what you're talking about. I'm just speculating. But, I've been in that boat. I was in that boat last week and I'm like, dude, Rancher, come on, create my cluster, finish it up. And, sometimes that screen, like I said, needs one of each type. And then at the same time, after that, they need some time. If you get to the screen where it says pre-polling images, you're in a good spot. XR, dude, thank you so much. Yo, resub, tier 1, 8 months, 1 month streak. Dude, thank you so much. Dude, appreciate it. How's it going, XR? Hopefully you got your K3s cluster. A lot of people working on K3s this morning, which I think is pretty awesome. I know it's complex. I know it's sometimes scary and sometimes messy, but I think you can do it. And once you get it, it's pretty awesome. And then don't be afraid or don't get discouraged if you destroy your cluster. I mean, look, it happened to me. I'm by no means a Kubernetes expert, but it happened to me 2 weeks ago. And it's happened to me a couple times to where I've had to recover my cluster or my persistent volumes get all out of whack, and I have to figure out how to recover those. But those are good lessons. I think they're ways to learn, and sometimes you just have to scrap the whole thing and start all over. And that's one part of the reason why I love home labbing, because I can do that. And 2, sometimes you gain so much experience from that first time of doing it, the second time makes it so much easier. So don't be afraid or discouraged if you destroy your cluster or you have to rebuild the whole entire thing, because I've done it many times. And if you ask in our Discord community, they have too. They have to. And I've gotten to points where I've snapshotted everything and I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. I'll never do that again, or I'll never touch that. And I end up doing it again. So I would advise, if you're doing it for the first time, copy and paste all your commands into something. Notepad.exe. I don't care what it is. Put it somewhere, because someday you might need it to run it again. Or script the whole thing. But first, in order to automate things, you got to have the documentation on how to do it. So this is a good first start. Vermium Seifeld, guess who's back again? Hey, how's it going, man? Dude, haven't seen you in a while. How's it going? Yeah, how are you? Scarlax, can you point me to some good how-to on install PXE server and Proxmox? I'm kind of struggle with finding something good. So Pixie Boot server? Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm sure if you want to install it on Proxmox, I assume, I would use an LXC container for that if you're hard set on doing it on Proxmox. But if you're going to use a virtual machine, there's plenty of PXE services out there that you could use. I don't know any of the top of my head. I'd probably just Google it. I mean, me personally, if I was going to spin it up, what I would do is create a virtual machine or create an LXC container, whichever one you like, and then Google what's the best PXE server. Google it, install it. I know that sounds pretty basic, but sometimes that's what I do. I haven't used a PXE server, a Pixie Boot server in a while. I mean, I haven't used it since, I've used it since Enterprise. Every now and then I'll need to use it to feed like some device that's toast or bricked new firmware. So yeah, dude, paired lunch, cheered 500 bits, dude. Thank you so much. Thank you, dude. Thank you. 500 bits, dude. Thank you so much, paired lunch. How's it going? Yeah, lights are going. But yeah, that's what I would go for. If you need some recommendations or something, yeah, ping me in Discord. I'll find something. Tech Genial, one word, snapshots. Yeah, I was just talking about that. I totally agree. I'm not as good at snapshots, because I just have this thing where it's like, okay, like how far in am I? If I'm so far in, I could rebuild it real quick. So I rarely do snapshots. And then I get to a point where I'm too far in to do snapshots too. I feel like that because I feel like at some point, at least with Kubernetes, all of my nodes, like, I say this a lot, but I start to treat them like cattle. And at some point, I don't care if they die, and that sounds pretty crude. Hey, real quick, dude, XOR, dude, you didn't have to, man. Thank you so much. XOR, dude, gifted 5 tier 1 subs, dude. Thanks so much, dude. You didn't have to, dude. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, XOR, dude. How's it going? Dude, Mr. Charlie, Mix Charlie, Adam Bob Bottom, that's what I'm going with. Hecario, Grouse, and Holy Merc. Dude, enjoy your gifted sub from XOR. Dude, thank you so much. Holy Merc, how's it going, man? How you doing? Dude, thanks again. Appreciate it. But what I was saying about snapshots, like I'm not the greatest at snapshots. Like I said, like I have this initial phase where I'm like too early in to do a snapshot. I'm like, okay, I could just reset it or revert or uninstall. And then I get too far to do snapshots where I'm like, okay, I should have done some before, but I'm past the point to where, if I mess something up, the whole cluster is messed up. I'll get to that point. And I'm not saying don't do snapshots, but what I started doing recently is, now that my cluster's kind of healthy, is now I just back up the most critical things. Like I basically create a DR version of my etcd database to where, I have the Rancher operator installed. I installed the backup operator. I can back up Rancher to Minio or S3 and back up my etcd database. And then I know the commands to restore my cluster. Because sometimes snapshots are good when you have one, or snapshots are good when you have two of different things. But when you start having something like, a database that might be clustered, or servers that might be clustered, or etcd, which is clustered and shared across all, restoring one version of that snapshot to a cluster, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen. I don't know if, and what might happen is, hey, the nodes that are still up, if they're up, and I'm sure there's a way around this. The nodes that are up and saying, hey, I'm the elected leader, or I have the most recent copy of the database. This guy is a week old. Hurry up and update him. So you might end up in the same spot you're at to begin with. You can probably avoid that by shutting everyone down and then spinning up one, shutting all of them down, restoring each one of those, spinning up one, let that be elected leader, spin up the others, and it should be good. I don't know that. I'm just making that up. That's me speculating on how it might work. But that's the kind of situation I was in 2 weeks ago where I'm like, okay, I snapshot my database, restore a snapshot in my database. That didn't work out so good. And then I'm like, okay, now I got to do like the DR version of this, get my SQL exports, restore those. And that worked for a little bit until the drift started happening. So now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I have the commands to spin up my cluster again in my notes, what I was saying, like take notes of when you do it. I have all the commands, all the copy paste to put somewhere. And on top of that, I have a DR process, which is, okay, here's how I do it to restore my etcd database on a brand new node as if it never even joined a cluster. And so basically I just seed a new cluster. I mean, this is like bare bones disaster recovery stuff. Because anything outside of there, I feel like if I snapshot individual things, I'll end up in the same state because they're all like, no, we're newer than you, Anyways, I digress, and I haven't been through it, but I've experienced some of the pain of trying to snapshot individual things and restore those, and I just end up in a weird spot. But yeah, I totally agree. Snapshots all the way. Do it until you find a better backup solution. Until you find whatever the recommended backup solution is. The same could be said for your NAS. Are you going to snapshot folders on your NAS? Maybe, maybe not. Or are you just going to back up those individual folders off-site or somewhere else? And to me, that sounds like a pretty robust solution, because then you can restore just files and not the whole entire operating system that comes along for the ride. And that's the same thing I have set up now with my cluster. It's, I'm backing up only etcd, and I know how to restore that to a brand new node. And if all my nodes die, at least I could start up a brand new node, make him the leader, give him a new etcd database, restore it there, and now my old cluster's back minus all my nodes. But we know how to join nodes, right? Simple command, add a new node, that database gets replicated, add some agents, they get replicated, and then as soon as the agents are up, they'll start taking on workloads again. That's my DR process right now. I don't know if it's the greatest, but it's what I have. I need to test it though. I need to test it. Fingers are crossed. I mean, I look at my backups. They're running every night. I take snapshots of my etcd database every single night. And I keep versions of it. It's tiny. It's tiny. I looked at it. I think I don't even think it's gzipped, and it's like 600 kilobytes. It's tiny. So all I need is a 600 kilobyte file now to restore my whole entire cluster. That's the hope, right? Fingers crossed. But anyways, I digress. But think about those things too, as you progress in building out your home lab. Like, is there a better way to back up? Is there a better way to restore? The answer might be no. The answer might be Snapshot's the best way. And if that works for you and you got tons of storage, go for it. 100%. It's better than what a lot of people think about. So yeah. Anyways, I digress. That's fun to think about, because I never thought about what my backup and I guess my DR plan is for my cluster. I know it in my head. Now I know what I set up, but I guess I've never said it out loud. Let's see. But yeah, great. Tech Gino, thank you so much. TechFreak2, any plans to do a video setting up monitoring a few services that you have a video for already with Grafana? It's like I planted you here. It's like I planted you here today, TechFreak2. Yes, actually, I do have a video on monitoring your cluster with Grafana. So if you're talking about monitoring, Kubernetes cluster and alerting, I just released that video today. So I released a whole entire video on how to manage and monitor and alert your whole entire cluster using Grafana, Prometheus, and Alert Manager. It's actually really simple, and you get tons of data out of it. It's just like I could look at those charts and graphs and metrics for a long time. But a few services, that one's a little bit tougher. And I will say that even in my video that I released today, talking about monitoring your whole entire Kubernetes cluster, it's not down to the service level. It might be down to the node, or you can even create some for the pod, but those are charts or graphs you're going to have to create. It'll tell you, how much resources maybe that pod's using, but not necessarily, logging, right? Logging isn't included in this. It's mainly monitoring. Logging's coming soon though. I've done the other route. I've gone the other way, where I set up Grafana, set up my own dashboard, and then install Prometheus or some way to pull those metrics off. Either you pull them or push them, whatever tool you're going to end up using, and then configuring Grafana dashboards, and that's fine, and that'll work too. It's just tough. It's tough, and it's a lot of work. Anyways, I released something today. If you want to do cluster monitoring and cluster alerting, absolutely look at that video, set it up, and then you can tune it. And you can say, turn off all metrics or all monitoring, except for what I want to see. So yeah, good question. It's almost like I planned you here today. Let's see. Takano, what's up, man? How's it going? Dude, how's it going? How are the journeys and the trials and tribulations with the carpet cleaner? I've been enjoying following that story in Discord. Love it. Cyborg, I just got myself, dude. Oh man, dude, TechFreak2, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, man. Dude, TechFreak2, 10 tier 1 subs. Dude, thank you so much, man. Oh man, dude, thank you so much. Sorry, I really didn't plant you here today. That would be even more awkward if I was like, yeah, I'm going to plant someone here and that'll ask a question about the video released today and at the same time give some stuff. No, totally not. Dude, TechFreak2, thank you so much. Dude, 10 gifted subs. Oh my gosh. So Penguin Airlines, how's it going, man? Penguin Airlines, Super AA, Neurolinks, Budney, Brandon, PD, I'm going with Brandon, Sergio, Java Varman, Murgath, Dasmush, and Farhan. Dude, enjoy your gifted sub from TechFreak2. 10 of them. Dude, thank you so much. Enjoy the moats. Enjoy the yeah, enjoy the moats and enjoy your sub for a month from Tech Freak 2. Appreciate it. Dude, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Oh, that's so generous. All of you guys today. I appreciate it. Man. And real quick, dude, Carter. Oh, that's so hard to pronounce. Carter. I'm like still, I guess, flustered from the 10 gifted subs. Appreciate it. Cartarin. I can't pronounce this. I'm going with Katarnam. That's a lot of consonants in there. Dude, thanks for following. Appreciate it. And dude, Tech Freak 2, 100 bits. Dude, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the help and the great videos. No problem at all. I hope they help. You know, I'm just, you know, I'm documenting my journey. It's a weird journey down this rabbit hole. I hope other people find it, and I hope they find it helpful. And, you know, I say this probably not enough, but I never want to seem like I'm dictating architecture, like, I decree thou shall use, Ranch or Kubernetes. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just documenting my journey. As I find things out or as I figure things out, I'm just documenting. And so most of the time it's what I was working on last week, the week before. So I appreciate it. I hope you find it helpful. I hope people find it helpful. But I'm going to keep doing it. I do it for fun. It's super fun. It's a fun skill to kind of to learn, to create content and to do this, kind of on the side because I have a day job. It's super fun and it exercises my brain in a way that I don't. I program. I'm a software engineer. I do, Homelab stuff at home, and then I get to create, do something kind of creative on the side, which is create content. And it's super fun. I haven't figured it all out. It's hard. Never think that being a content creator is easy. It's hard work. It's a lot of work too. It's a different type of work depending on how you classify hard, but I think it's hard. It's hard because you have to align so many things for things to go right, to be a content creator, especially full time. I couldn't imagine the pressure that's on you all the time being a full-time content creator, because man, it's a lot of work. And I will say it's hard. It's a different type of hard, but it's hard work. So appreciate it. So yeah, let's see. Cyborg, I just got myself a second server, R210. Yeah, same one I think that PC Geek has. Is it worth running both servers in a Proxmox cluster? I learned that you can make something like a Raspberry Pi be the third vote, making high availability work. What would be the benefits be? Is it worth it for home use? Yeah, so you're in the same boat as me. You're in the same exact boat that I was in. I have two 1U servers, both running Proxmox. Do I run them HA? No, I don't. Are there benefits to running an HA? Absolutely, there are. But, to have a good, HA cluster, obviously you need 3. But you're going to need some more hardware. You're going to probably want 10 gig networking, very fast disks, so that, those VM nodes can bounce around, right? Just think of, this is high level, but think of how Kubernetes works, right? Kubernetes you have lots of nodes, and those nodes have services. One node goes down, the service can jump over. It's that same exact idea, but with Proxmox, but they're virtual servers. That same kind of idea, oversimplifying. But you need, instead of, the other node in Kubernetes pulling down a 20 megabyte Docker image, it's going over to another, node and possibly spinning up a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 gig server from shared storage. So you need really fast networking for it to be, pretty effective. I mean, could you get by with 1 gig, 2.5 gigs? Sure. 10 would probably be better because you're going to need to pull that really fast from somewhere and spin that up really quick. Will it work with 1 gig, 2.5 gig? Absolutely, it will. It'll just take a little bit longer for that machine to come back up. But you're in the same boat I was, where I have 2 nodes in my Proxmox cluster, non-HA, and they're my 1U servers. And those 1U servers, really, the only reason why I clustered them, well, I won't say only, but one of the main reasons why I clustered them was just an easy way to migrate stuff back and forth. And so if you do that, there are some considerations. Like you'll want the same exact storage layout on those 2 servers. Half the reason why I bought 2 of the same and built 2 of the same exact servers, because I wanted the same storage, because they need very similar storage, I guess, requirements. And some of that, like ZFS, if it's on one, it has to be on the other. So any storage you have has to be kind of mirrored between the 2, at least in my 2, version cluster. My architecture is a little bit different because mine's primarily to run Kubernetes nodes for the most part. So I did end up adding a third node. Actually, I was considering a fourth. I'm just testing some stuff. I was going to go down the Raspberry Pi route for quorum, right? So you could have a third node that's just there as your one vote in case, the two go down. And I considered that, but what I ended up settling on for me personally, for the time being, was spinning up an Intel NUC. I have an old Intel NUC and I have an old Mac Mini, and I was just like, let's put Proxmox on this thing. Let's see how it does. And so that's what I did. I've been experimenting with moving some nodes over there, some of my Kubernetes nodes. And this kind of, it dovetails, right into what Proxmox clustering does. So in Kubernetes clustering, you want 3 nodes. In Proxmox clustering, you kind of want 3 nodes. And at the same time, then if I'm going to have 3 nodes, I'm going to put one of each type on all of those nodes. So in my Proxmox cluster, I'll have 3 VMs, each running, Kubernetes server, and then the same thing, I'll do the same thing for an agent, one of each type. And then you can do that all day. You could do that with DNS if you use Active Directory or anything you have. When you start clustering, it's super nice to have one of each type, because then you can shut down one whole thing and have your other services still running, or 2 of those and still have it running. So what are the benefits? It depends. For me, the benefit is to be able to shut down one server for maintenance. And what does that look like? Well, I need to apply some updates. I need to patch, my Proxmox server, and that needs a reboot. I can reboot one whole server and my cluster and everything for the most part. Anything that's, a little more HA than running one, but anything I have that's running HA is still going to continue, like my Kubernetes cluster. VMs, one-off VMs obviously aren't, but sometimes I'll need to reboot them. And then I'll patch it, reboot it, it'll come back up, and my services are good. Then I'll do the same thing for the other one. And there are a couple other things too that I found that are maybe just benefits, but live migrations, super awesome. Super awesome. I mean, you need ZFS and a storage pool named the exact same thing on both servers, but live migrations are cool. I got that kind of for free. And you can do this if they're not I'll back up. So live migrations are really awesome. It's something I only dreamed of, when I ran ESXi and couldn't afford the license for it. But in Proxmox, you get it, and it's pretty cool. You can say, move this virtual machine to this cluster. And it's like, okay, I'm moving it right now. And your machine's still up. It'll spin up the other one. It'll migrate the other one, spin up the other one, and shut down the other one. And you maybe have a tiny blip of downtime. Pretty cool. I did not know that when I clustered mine. I just wanted an easy way to back up to the same place and restore it. But that's something I kind of got for free from just clustering. You can still do this same idea if they're not in a cluster, or even if you just have storage somewhere else. You back it up to your NFS share, and then you go on your other server. As long as that can connect to your NFS share, you restore it from there, and you're kind of in business. The live migration though is pretty cool. Like I said, these are things I only dreamed of when I ran ESXi, on my home license. So it's pretty cool. But a third one, unless you're gonna build an HA cluster and you're really kind of going all in, you're going to get, decently fast networking, same storage across all or shared storage. Benefits for home use, not a ton other than learning and higher availability of your virtual machines. I'll say that. It's a lot though. It's a lot. Even when I did 2, I debated. When I built my 1U server, I was like, do I just want one big server again? No, I kind of want 2. And then, I look at that gap in my rack and I'm like, do I need a third? And it's a tough call. I think every week I'm like, why do I keep trying to make my third Proxmox node an Intel NUC or an old Mac Mini? Like, why don't I just get another 1U server and all this will be solved? But it's a cost, play, and energy. So 2, that's one of the cons, I guess I would say, is it's just one more server running 24/7, 365. So any energy requirements you had for that one is now duplicated or triplicated, depending on how far you scale out. So anyways, those are kind of things I learned when, clustering Proxmox. Mine's not HA. I just did it so I could have, an easy way to migrate stuff back and forth. But those are all the things that, I took into consideration too. Gumshoe Noir. I like all these noirs at the end. It's fun to say. Hi, Techno Tim. Want to check out my Homelab build with TrueNAS Proxmox? Sure. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Takano. So going back to that though, Gumshoe, just share it in Discord. We'll check it out later. Share it in Discord. It sounds like a great place. Takano, thought I would stop by, but going to head out soon. Wedding day for one of my cousins over at the house, so we are frantically getting everything done. All right, I like it. Home wedding. Awesome. That sounds fun. This sounds super fun. I've never been to a wedding that wasn't at some kind of convention, so that sounds super awesome. I've been to parties that weren't. It sounds super fun. Weddings are always fun, especially if it's family, because it's like it's a big family reunion for everyone. I wish more people in my family would get married more often, but that sounds weird. But it's just a great, I don't know, like family reunion. Kind of unexpected. You go there thinking, it's wedding day. Obviously, it's about the bride and groom, but then you're like, oh yeah, I get to see like cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, whatever, parents that I haven't seen in a long time. So it's super fun. So have fun, dude. Cyborgium. Dude, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. Prime sub, tier 1. Thank you so much. Thank you. M Dabom. Oh, thank you for the gifted. Oh yeah. No, thank you so much there were a couple of gifted subs. I think that was that one. I'd have to look to see who that was on. Might have been from iLude. Not sure who that one was from. Let's see, PC Geek Banana. Dude, thanks for testing. Reish, working on rewiring my house and putting everything into a rack. Nice. That sounds pretty fun, but kind of scary at the same time. I picked up the Detroit Packing Company 24 port panel. Have you or anyone ran into any problems with some RJ45 plugs being loose enough they lose connection? Seems to be a different brand. It seems to be different from brand to brand. So a couple things. One, rewiring your house. That sounds awesome. I'm assuming, I don't know if you mean electrical too. Probably just Cat 5 or Cat 6 or whatever. Ethernet cable. Sounds awesome. Probably not Cat 5. What year is this? 1990? It sounds fun. I did hear, I'll never do it again in this house. I'll never add more ports because it's such a pain to get them down to the basement, but hopefully you're having fun doing it. I have that same one. That's the one I talked about, I think, in my network upgrade. I love it. I found that. I love it. I haven't had any problems with loose network jacks to where, I didn't have a connection. If I pull them and kind of wiggle them, is there wiggle room? Yeah, a little bit. But they're always terminated. I've always had a connection. And I made sure before I went through and set it all up, after, I guess, the video, because I was like, well, I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to keep this thing in place. If some of the ports aren't working, I'll return it later. But, it's so easy to just plug in new jacks later. Anyways, I tested every one of mine, and every one of mine were fine. Is there a little bit of play in them? Sure. But enough to where they don't terminate? No, not for me. I will say, though, that I think there's a spinoff now, a different company making that same exact one that I used that people are buying. I assume, since you mentioned that brand name, that you're buying the same exact one I had. I don't know. I would, if I'll say this, if any of mine didn't work, even one, I would send it back 100%. I would send it back because, it's defective. But I would also, test with different cables too. All the stuff you probably know. If you're running your own network cable, you probably tested all this, but, try different cables, wiggle it. Make sure that, that cable isn't corroded. I'm sure it's not because this is all brand new stuff. But yeah, sounds awesome. Let's see. Deadly Dragon. My latest project is going to be Longhorn with Vsphere. Oh, awesome. For those that use Vsphere, it's an amazing GitHub out there for Packer that makes deploying Vsphere a breeze. If I have permissions to post the link, it's an incredible resource. Absolutely, post it in Discord. Discord would absolutely be the place for it. I'm interested because Vsphere is ESXi or VMware's product, right? I assume. But going to be Longhorn with Vsphere. I'm trying to figure this out. So you want persistent volume, you want a storage class of Longhorn, and you're going to use Vsphere for it. Those that want to use Vsphere, there's an amazing GitHub out there for Packer that makes deploying Vsphere a breeze. It sounds super interesting. I thought Vsphere was licensed. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I thought it was licensed. I thought it was. Let me know if it's something else, because I used to be a little more connected to what was going on with VMware. When I did more infrastructure stuff for my job, but now software development, and we're all in the cloud too on top of that. So I'm just like, I'm totally disconnected from a lot of hypervisor stuff, because I use Proxmox at home, and at work I think we have 2 virtual machines, and that's because we couldn't run some stuff in Kubernetes. So yeah, super interesting. Let me know. Takano 10 points right now. 10K, dude. All right, man. We got to burn him. I maybe I'll set up a 10K perk that you can purchase. Because that's, I think that's how I got you last time. Well, I didn't get you, but that's how much my lights used to cost. And I was like, whoa, that's way too much. But Takano, he did do it. Cathode, what are the in-ears you're using? What are the in-ears I'm using? These are Beats. These are just Beats. Nothing too fancy, and I guess they're a lot fancier than what I'm used to using. But they're just Beats in the 3.5 millimeter jack version. I bought these specifically for a couple reasons. One, I can take calls on it too, and I use them for work. So this headset is kind of what I use all day for work. When I didn't work from home, right, I use wireless ones because I was a little bit more mobile, and I was like, not having headphones on all day. Then when I got working from home, I had headphones on a lot more. So I was like, I don't need to be wireless when I'm right here. And they ended up working out pretty good with my Go XLR. I'm not using the microphone right here, but I do use that for conferences. Anyways, long story short, they're just Beats. Not saying that like they're not good. They're just Beats. They're pretty good. I had a hard time finding a decent set of headphones that had okay quality, and at the same time had this microphone built in. And at the same time plugged into my MacBook. And so I just switch. I plug it into my MacBook for work. I take Zoom calls like this, minus this mic, push that out of the way. And then I connect it to my Go XLR when I stream or when I'm running Windows. It's Mac during the day, Windows at night. But yeah, I think they're good. I've never heard the other end of what these sound like, the actual microphone. But like someone I worked with yesterday did a Zoom call. They're like, it sounds like you're here right now. I was like, all right. I guess they sound okay then. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, PC Geek. They're in gear. Yeah, they should be in the headphones section. If not, I'll put them there because I do get a lot of questions about them. I do wish I could get this mic to work. I mean, I could get it to work with this, but this mic is way better than this mic right here. But yeah, cathode, I'll add them. But they're Beats, and these are the 3.5 millimeter. It's not the lightning jack version. I went back and forth. Do I get the lightning jack so I can plug it directly into my iPhone, and then I'll have a dongle on my iPhone? But then when I use my iPhone, I never use those anyways. I use these, and I settled on the old traditional 3.5 millimeter. Because I figured I'd be plugging it into an extension cable to my Go XLR and my MacBook more often than, the having a dongle. I'm dongled out. Mac, yeah, I'm so dongled out. And that's how you have the latest MacBook too. If your dongles have dongles, then you definitely have the latest MacBook. And some of my dongles have dongles, which then have dongles. I think I'm three I'm 3 dongle deep on dongles on some stuff. So, anyways, let's see. Deadly Dragon from Rancher Slack chat. They reference this GitHub religiously. I'll have to check it out. This Packer GitHub will get built in vSphere templates in about 15 minutes on my R710. Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Post it in Discord for sure. I don't have a link right now enabled, but post it in Discord for sure. Let's see. DJ Dub, how's it going? I've been using 2 HP 290s, upgraded proc, RAM, dirt cheap, Intel Optane cache for CFS pool. Nice. Alongside beefier main server. Nice. Yeah. I haven't run an Intel Optane yet. It sounds incredible. Sounds incredible, especially, for caching. That's what it's for. Sounds incredible. But man, sounds like you got a pretty decent build there. Pretty decent. Andrea, I'll go with Andrea. BIA, I'm trying to Ruko Viditel, a nice CRM with great potential. So you're trying to, I assume you're looking for a CRM. Yeah, that's tough. because everyone uses like Salesforce or whatever. I assume you mean an open source and maybe a self-hosted one. There are versions of it. I'd have to look. I think it's in the awesome self-hosted GitHub. If you just Google awesome self-hosted, I think there's an open source version of some type of CRM that some people do use. Haven't used it. I've used very few CRMs in my life. I know they exist. I know what they do, but I've never built, maintained, or really used one other than looking at it. Hopefully that's what you're asking. Let's see. iLude. The stream, chat, Windows, pause, temp. Hopefully it's working okay. Like frozen? I see the chat pause message at the bottom. I see what you mean. Yeah, it is, because I'm scrolling through. You'll see that, but I'll scroll through. I think I know what you mean. I scrolled up to see what's first. Yep. So yeah, anytime. Yeah, I should hide that. I'll find a better system at some point. This is V2 of what it used to be. But appreciate it. Farhan, regarding more critical workloads, since I might be breaking Kubernetes more easily, should I just bank of Dockers and Portainer? Example, Home Assistant and my budgeting apps, Grossy. Oh, you use Grossy. Cool. I know what that is. Should you just bank? Should I just bank? You're basically saying, hey, if you're going to be destroying Kubernetes, should you just use Docker? Yeah, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I would say like some people, if you're using single node Rancher, arguably, you could just use Docker and Portainer. I mean, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to do, yeah, absolutely could. If you're single node, once you get into clustering, then it's like, or higher availability or scaling horizontally, then you have choices. Then it's like, okay, do I go with Swarm or Kubernetes? And that's the choice you'll have to make. And then if you go with Kubernetes, then you'll have to say, okay, do I go with Portainer, which also supports Kubernetes or Rancher, or just plain old Kubernetes? I would, what I've learned, and I've been through this, I've destroyed my cluster. What I've learned is that like there is a time and place for Kubernetes. Sometimes there's a really great fit for Kubernetes. Let's say like Discord bot. My Discord bot that runs in Discord and the bot that runs in this channel is running in my Kubernetes cluster. Could it run in plain old Docker? Absolutely. Do I scale it more than one? No, I don't. No, I don't, because it's I haven't figured out, I'd have to put a lot more infrastructure in place. Just the way that these bots work, they listen for messages and they respond to messages. If you have multiple bots, scaling them up, now you have multiple bots responding to these messages. I'd have to implement some kind of message queue and a whole bunch of stuff. But my point is that, I run it in Kubernetes. Why? Because, if I ever reboot one server, it'll pop up somewhere else. Or if one server or one node goes down, it'll pop up somewhere else. And Kubernetes will handle that. I also have some health checks built in. So Kubernetes is constantly saying, hey, are you alive? Hey, are you alive? Hey, are you alive? And that service is saying, yep, I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here. And so that's what Kubernetes does really well. It does a lot of things well. Is that the greatest thing for, let's say Plex? I'll throw it out there. Is that the greatest thing for Plex? Yeah, I don't know. It does introduce a lot more complexity. It introduces a ton of complexity. How do you get, communication into that cluster? Well, you need a load balancer, something like MetaLB, to be able to expose that traffic for people to get into there, unless you're exposing that port on every node, or on every node or outside of the cluster, which would still require some type of ingress. So it makes it it's more complicated for networking. I'll say that 100% it is, unless you're, like I said, going to do, exposing node ports. But then you even have the problem of, okay, which node is it running on? So it gets complicated. And so I'll say that there's a time and place for Kubernetes. There's a time and a place. And do I run everything in Kubernetes? No, I don't, because I don't want to figure out those things. And there's some things that I require, that my Kubernetes cluster requires, that I don't want to put in Kubernetes too, right? It's putting my database inside of Kubernetes my old one that used to require the database. I thought that's probably not the best choice, right? Because, cluster spins up. Let's talk to the database. It's not there. So then the nodes just freak out for a long time. So anyways, I think these are things they'll have to kind of decide. if your Kubernetes environment is very, volatile or let's just say not dependable or, or you name it, whatever you want to call it, probably not a great place to put things, in general, until you've gotten it figured out and until you decide if that's what you want. But I have 50, 60, 70 pods. I can't remember. I'll have to look again. 50, 60 pods that are all running in Kubernetes doing something. And it's a great fit for a lot of typical, enterprise or type workloads. If you think about, APIs, servers, that didn't really make sense. APIs, web servers, anything you can think of, web hosting, anything like that, it runs really, really great. For things that are a little more, I'd say needy, I'm going to call them needy. For containers or images that are a little more needy, I'll air quote that, like Home Assistant. Nothing against Home Assistant, but Home Assistant has a lot of requirements. It needs it has a lot of ports. It needs. It has a lot of ports. I'll just go over there. Networking it's very needy on the networking side, where it needs to be able to listen for all types of traffic. Needs to be connected to possibly stood up on the same node, or be able to listen for broadcast traffic from all of those other IoT devices that are trying to communicate with it. That's tough. That's tough for Kubernetes. Getting those packets into the cluster and then to the right node that it's running on is tough. It's tough, right? Because a lot of it's UDP or broadcast or some other protocol, where it's really tough. So Home Assistant might not be the best fit for Kubernetes. That might be just plain old Docker, and arguably it might just be a virtual machine too. I've noticed it was Has.io or the Has.io version or something. They actually use Docker within their Home Assistant version for plugins. So it's just like becomes this conflict of, okay, I'm running in Docker and now I can't get these plugins unless I install those through Docker myself, and then I'm not getting a lot of the ecosystem that I want through the UI that they have. So a lot of it's going to be trial and error. But I would recommend, like, if there's anything super critical, let's say Plex is critical to you, and people in your home depend on that media, and and they depend on it being there, and you want stability, just put it in Docker, put it in a VM. And then if one day you're feeling super ambitious and your Kubernetes cluster is pretty solid, you can try migrating it there. You can. And will it work? Sure. Is it going to take some extra thought and planning, some extra knowledge around networking or exposing on MetaLLB and then combining additional ports on MetaLLB? Yeah, it is. It is. And so that's the trade-off. When you go from one to many, one node to many nodes, it just opens up so many more possibilities, but it also opens up a lot of complication as well. Because now all of a sudden, when a Docker container can run on one server, it's like, okay, I'll do host-based networking. So now I'm a first-class citizen on your network, on your NIC. We share the same network. Anybody can broadcast. Anybody can communicate with me. They all know where I'm at. But imagine if you started bouncing that around inside of Kubernetes, and then on top of that, you may or may not have a load balancer on how to get into your traffic. Then it's like, okay, now all communication is shut off unless you go through a load balancer, and that takes some extra configuration. So just things to consider. These are things that I've been through, and I won't lie, I've moved things into Kubernetes, moved them out, moved them back in, moved them out. Pi-hole, it was, Pi-hole was on my life with Pi-hole has been interesting. It went from a Pi 0 to a Pi 2, to a virtual machine, to Docker, into Rancher 1, which was not even Kubernetes, into Rancher 2, back to a virtual machine. And so, those are things that it just, some things got too painful or impossible to do, and DNS. I need DNS there if my Kubernetes cluster isn't up. I can't wait for Kubernetes to spin up to have DNS, because some of the things in Kubernetes need DNS, and I use DNS, local DNS, in Pi-hole. So those are just things you'll have to consider. And I don't mean to ramble, but these are all things that's like, hopefully something I said, clicks or a light bulb goes off where it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But for things like maybe budgeting apps, Grossy, kind of familiar with it, web platform, it sounds like a great fit. It probably has a database behind the scenes. I'm sure it does. Hopefully they have exposed a way to connect to that database. Might be internal, or they might have given you environment variables so you can connect to an external database. That might be a good fit. Because, the traffic coming in is most likely going to be web traffic. So you can use a reverse proxy in front of it. I won't say easy, because a lot of people have just said that traffic's very hard. And I agree that traffic is kind of hard, and it's especially hard in Kubernetes. But once you get that set up, then if that becomes your reverse proxy, and you can have SSL, and you can get everything working that way. It's not to say that won't work in Docker too. So I don't mean to be, talk about things so vaguely, but like I mentioned earlier, I have 5 instances of Portainer. I have a Docker host running Docker containers in every single one of my VLANs for a specific reason, except for one. It's because I didn't want to do a plain old VM there. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do Docker and I'll manage that way. And if I'm going to do Docker, I'm going to do Portainer. And then, I have a Kubernetes cluster too. And so and then I have virtual machines too. It's one big ecosystem that works most of the time together, but it works out pretty good. But it just things I learned along the way. So yeah, sorry, I don't mean to ramble, but what you asked is what goes through my head every single day. Does this belong in Docker? Does this belong as a virtual machine? Does this belong in Kubernetes? And I challenge myself. I challenge my own ideas every day. I'm just like, why is this so hard? Even today, right before the stream, I use Unify Protect, right? And then Home Assistant. So I have Apple devices. I was like, sweet, Unify Protect with Home Assistant has this plugin where I can basically control all of my cameras in HomeKit. That's running in plain old Docker. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be great. For the life of me, I could not figure out. I spent 45 minutes on it trying to configure everything, to work so I can get to, in my home app on my iPhone to my cameras. And I can see them, but it won't stream. And I'm just like, I know if this was a VM, it would work. But that's no fun. But I kept telling myself, I know it'll work. I watched, Snazzy Quinn, his video today on home automation, and it just like re-inspired me to try this again. And anyways, he did on he did on bare metal, an old Mac Mini, but I was like, I have Docker and I have HomeKit running, so I'll try it again. Anyways, but I guess the moral of the story is challenge what you think, challenge decisions you made, last week, or challenge decisions you made last year, and just reassess. And that's what I constantly do, because at the end of the day, it just makes me better, and makes hopefully my infrastructure a little bit better. And there are times when I've made it way too complicated. Perfect example, my Kubernetes cluster before the one that just died, way too complicated. I went so wide on namespaces. I'm like, yeah, I'm having a namespace for everything. I mean, think of it like VLAN. So if you haven't done namespaces in Kubernetes, I mean, think of it like, and you do networking, think of, again, high level, oversimplifying. Think of, VLANs where you segment traffic, you tag packets, segment traffic to keep it, keep them all in their own lanes. I did the same thing with Kubernetes. I had like 6 namespaces, and it starts to catch up with you. In the beginning, it sounds great. You're like, sweet, 6 namespaces. Yeah, this is great. This is public. This is internal. This is not public. This is kind of public. Is this thing public? I don't know. Put it there. And then you get so far, and then you realize, oh, well, now I just separated all of these, these deployments into namespaces. And now when I create ingresses, they need to be in those namespaces too. So you start creating ingresses, and then you're like, oh, well, this service needs to talk to this service. How do I do that? And it just became overly complicated. And so I would just encourage you to start simply, start with an easy workload. One that I always recommend that's relatively easy to start with and fun to use is Heimdall, or whatever dashboard you want to use, organizer, whatever. But start with something super simple, get it going, build up your dashboard for all your HomeLab services and let that run. And I know that's not as fun as Home Assistant or as Plex or getting that going there, because those are all super fun, or Minecraft, that's awesome. But it's relatively simple to get going, and it's an easy win. So anyways, great question. I could talk about that more than I've already talked about, and it's what goes through my head every day. So you really struck a chord with what I struggle with every day. So don't think that your struggles are your own or unique. I go through that every single day. Every day I'm like, did I make the right decisions? But it's a cool thing about HomeLab. You tear it down, build it back up, or move it, And like I said, you'll find a use case for Kubernetes. You might never find a use case for Kubernetes, and that's totally fine too. And I have content on Portainer, plain old Docker. Like I said, I run 5 instances of Portainer. I know that a Kubernetes isn't a magic bullet that's going to solve everything. It actually creates more problems, creates more problems in my life, but at the same time, it enables a lot of things for me. So that I get some higher availability. I get, to spread load across some of my servers, and I, get to learn some of the things that large enterprises are doing, and, keep some of my skills sharp so that when someday someone's like, oh, you need to deploy an ingress, or you need to do something in Kubernetes. I'm like, yeah, I know how to do that. I understand what you're talking about, and I think I can do it, And so, it's who knows? Will Kubernetes be around in 5 years? Who knows? It might be something else. Anyways, So gonna go eat some food. Oh, PC Geek. Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks. Appreciate it, man. Thanks. Thank you so much. Multiple VMs to build multiple clusters for one production, and then you can mess with it and break it. Yeah, good point too. Good point too. I even considered. So if you're thinking about like, okay, you can. If you're going to build a cluster and you want to have one that's kind of for fun or for play, you could totally build multiple clusters, or you could use, dare I say, namespaces, to divide up some of your production and non-production workloads. I will say if you do use namespaces, you're still using the same cluster. But that's a good point. You could spin up, at least with Rancher, super easy to spin up another cluster. And I know that's more resources. But if you have, one resource, one cluster this is my production cluster, and then this is my dev or staging or play, whatever you want to call it, cluster, where you test the kind of more risky stuff out on your lower environment, which is dev or play or whatever you want to call it, get it working there, and then, move that to your production. Yeah, I like it. This is starting to sound real enterprise. I like it. Oh, I couldn't imagine having a lower environment at home. I kind of do, but it's just a single node, Kubernetes cluster that I just play with. Lower environment at home. I like it. I like where you're going. This is, yeah. I lose too many bright, flashy things on the mod view to distract me. Squirrel. Yeah, there are so many things there are on the mod view. I bet it's just like your own dashboard. Holy Mark, how's it going? Hola. Prop Power. Hello. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Sashchensky on GitHub, vGPU unlock. I have to look at it. So you were talking about getting SR-IOV working. That someone hacked the NVIDIA driver. I'll have to check it out. It sounds super interesting. I'm kind of like, oh, should I try it? But if it's on GitHub and hopefully it's not just the binary, hopefully it's the steps on how to do it, then I might give it a shot. Let's see. For those that want a GUI and Ansible, look at AWX open source version of Tower. Yeah, for sure. Deadly Dragon. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it. We've talked about it. It's super hard to... I know it exists, but the documentation for setting it up is very sparse. And I don't know if that's just a move on their part. Maybe once I figure it out, I'll open up a pull request for them. But yeah, I'm just like... I know it exists, but it doesn't seem like they want you to use it because there's no easy on-ramp for their documentation. I've looked at it, but yeah, I revisit their documentation link every so often, and I would like some hosted Ansible in my life so that I'm not always just running from a terminal. I can run them from a web. I can preserve them, and I can just say go, or I can schedule them. Absolutely, like for my updates and stuff like that. So many use cases for it. It sounds awesome. Backing up, migrating, whatever you want to do, orchestrating, shutting down half your cluster, patching it, bringing it back up and doing the same for the other, all sounds super awesome. Ilu, JMO, ping me in Discord. Yeah, John, yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Ilu and John's figured out how to do a lot of Ansible playbooks for Proxmox, for sure. Mist 32. Have you heard of Tailscale? Super awesome product that gives you access to your home lab from anywhere. No, I haven't. And the name kind of sounds familiar. But no, I haven't. I should check it out. I use VPN for now. It works okay, but maybe that's better. Deadly Dragon, Scarlax. You want to set up IPsec tunnel to those remote sites? Ideally, yeah, all reachable internally. Yeah, totally agree. This is going back to Proxmox. Clustering through the internet without a tunnel, I think was the question. Yeah, for sure. Secure. Yeah, absolutely. Secure way. I 100% agree. I'm glad I got that right. Whew, I passed the test. At least that test. I don't pass many. Let's see. BIST. I went from Unify USG to OpenSense in Proxmox. Any suggestions on alternative to what you use? I went from Unify USG to OpenSense on Proxmox. Any suggestions or alternative, or what do you use? Yeah, so what I use for networking for my network firewall, and I've had a long history with firewalls, and I won't go all the way back. Yeah, I'll go all the way back. I've done so many things with network firewalls at home, and this is really how I started to get very interested in home labs in general, is because I used to run a dedicated firewall, a software firewall that was either Windows sometimes, Linux sometimes, virtualized or hardware. I've done this for many years, and I still have some of the old ones. They're pretty cool. Just because it was fun to try out. It was a lot more fun than my Linksys router, which arguably DDWRT and Tomato came out shortly after, and that was cool. But I wanted my own firewall to do a lot more than what they gave me. And so, I've been on a journey for a long time. And like I said, I've used OpenSense, I've used, pfSense, I've used Untangle, I've used Smoothwall, I've used IPCOP, I've used Microsoft routing and remote access. Could you imagine Windows as your firewall for your edge? I did it. And then also use hardware once. And I've used OpenSense, yeah, and I even used, what did I use? XG Firewall by Sophos for a long time. I actually used that for about a year and a half because I enjoyed it. The last virtual one I was on was XG Firewall by Sophos, and I chose that after pfSense because I wanted a little bit more integration, and I wanted a little more integration into their, into that ecosystem, that whole thing. Besides plugin stuff. I know pfSense was great, but I used it for so many years. I was like, I want to try something new. So I would switch all the time. You're using OpenSense and Proxmox. It's, between OpenSense or pfSense, it's about as good as it's going to get for virtualized firewall. What do I use now? Get ready. I use Unify. I use a Unify UDM Pro. Boo, I know there's lots of boos. But I chose that. For a lot of reasons. I summarized those in a video, but it just boiled down to, I want to kind of spend less time on my networking throughout my whole entire ecosystem. I'm not a network engineer. I don't even play one of those at home. I kind of play a network administrator at home. And so, I went with them for a lot of reasons. It was easy to set up, all of my firewall rules, my VLANs, have that trickle through all my devices. It's easy to add and maintain all of my access points. Same with my home security system. So it just got really easy. It just seemed like a good fit for me. Because, I'm not a networking expert. I kind of know my way around. But, where did I want to spend my time? And don't get me wrong, that's absolutely a great skill to learn, but probably not my next job. So I was just kind of like, oh, how much time do I spend on this? Anyways, that's what I use. Before that, it was XG Firewall and pfSense. I think pfSense, you can't go wrong. You're using OpenSense, so it's really close, but I think it's as good as it gets, pfSense, especially if you're going to be virtualizing, even if it's not virtualized, if it's hardware, it's good as it gets because it's a fantastic product. Deadly Dragon, BIST, I'm a network engineer. All right, personally, and I would recommend pfSense. All right, I was just saying that. Or even just Junos. All right, Junos SRX 300s, my personal current. Yeah, all right, we got a network engineer in here. All right, now the pressure's on. I'm not going to defend my choices at all. They're just my preferences. Doesn't mean it's right. But yeah, awesome. pfSense, I totally agree. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Unify seemed to be lack features and power like the APs though. Oh really? I learned OpenSense beefed up version of pfSense. Yeah, the last I checked, they were trying to do their own thing. I don't understand the differences between the two. I think there was some kind of internal thing where they were like, okay, we're more open than you are, so we're going to fork it. So I don't know what the history is behind there. My access points and Unify stuff has been fantastic for me. I haven't noticed anything. Every now and then I run home security, I run VPN, I have 6 VLANs, I have public, internal, private IoT networks, access points, 5 SSIDs that are tied to VLANs. I'm sure there's a lot more stuff I can do with it. I mean, it handles it all just fine. But there's a lot of usability stuff technical usability stuff that I wish they had. So it's not all roses, but it's worked out great for me. Deadly Dragon, Juniper is all CLI though, so you don't know it, stay away or learn. Yeah, all CLI was tough for me too. That's why, I did a little bit of Cisco stuff with CLI and I was like, oh man, this is tough. Then Cisco has, obviously a GUI too. And I was like, oh, this is a little bit more better. But still, it was hard for me to understand like a lot of the concept stuff to really dive deep in my Cisco switch when I had it. I still have it actually. It's in the basement. Dady, hello. Have you played with HDMI capture cards and virtual machines in terms of pass-through? Great question. Have I ever? No. I have. I'm trying to think if I've ever done it. Because I do some other things. I do GPU pass-through to virtual machines. That all works fine. I think it would be okay. The only thing I could see not being the greatest is maybe something to do with timing. But that should be totally fine. Like sometimes like some devices are really sensitive to like the internal clock. And when you virtualize stuff like that internal clock can be slightly off. Things you'll have to tune. And there's some things you can do in Windows to make things more performant virtually. For instance, I pass through my GPU, which also has a sound card. Sometimes that sound card, there's something it looks at in the registry to determine its clock or something like that, or see if some kind of features is supported. Windows will say no, but I know the exact registry key to change so that it says yes. And then so audio will just magically be crystal clear. I run into that. I have that documented somewhere, and someone asked for it a long time ago. I would say go for it. Give it a shot. I mean, most of these things that I've done, I don't know if they're going to work until I try them. But I would think if like I know that capture card is super sensitive, but I would think if something like a video card with audio can work, that maybe a capture card too. Capture card might be a little bit more sensitive to the internal clock or being virtualized or any kind of latency. But I would give it a shot. Because then you'll know if it works. Then you can let me know. I should do it sometime. I only have one capture card and it's running the stream. Otherwise, I'd throw it in to give it a shot. But yeah, I do run one virtualized workload that encodes video, but the video in is generated on that machine. And so I see how this is interesting, because then I could have video in from some other device and generate that video to then encode to send off wherever. Sounds interesting. Let me know, Dady. Yeah, that's my edge router. More features, more control than Unify router. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ilud loves the edge router. Thanks for the info. Yeah, no problem. To add that, Tim, those nodes are node pending removal. To add to that, Tim, those nodes are nodes pending removal. Deadly Dragon. I think that's going back to Kubernetes. But I think I might know what you're talking about. I've had problems with nodes not getting removed and then nodes being available are gone in kube control, but they're in Rancher. I've ended up it's kind of tough when you run into that. But let me know if that's what you're talking about. If that's a problem you're running into or just calling something out. My mirror Hanil. That's what I'm going with. Finally catch you live. Hey, how's it going? Senpai Carter, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. Hey, Tim and Chad, how are you? Deadly Dragon, negative. Those nodes were broken vSphere templates. I was spinning up new nodes for Longhorn, and the packer file was set up for no DHCP, which effectively broke the template. I just need to know how to kill those off. Have functional cluster already. How to kill those nodes off? You could use the kube control command. I think we kind of talked about that a little bit just before. be careful with this and don't type this in right now. Put it somewhere else, not directly in your terminal, but it should be just kube control delete nodes, plural, and then the one node name you want to delete if those are still there in your cluster. Sometimes Rancher gets a little bit, they're kind of picky, like they want to communicate with that node again before they delete it. I don't know. I've run into weird, I think it's a rates condition on when it gets deleted and Rancher just not noticing that it's gone. But if you want to do it the kube control way, it should be just kube control delete nodes, plural, and then your list of nodes, and it's going to be one node or however many nodes. Be careful with that. I mean, it's not it's not going to totally destroy your cluster unless you pass in the last of something, and then who knows what's going to happen. But it's easy to add nodes back, right? They're just cattle. Let me grab a drink. Just cattle. So let's see. Deadly Dragon. Beauty of my setup at the moment is that Rancher will reach out to Vsphere and create VMs based off the template that Packer created. Oh, I like it. I don't have to touch a thing. It sets everything up on its own. Interesting. This kind of sounds like Rancher's other solution. I forget what it's called. Their hyper-converged solution that they're coming out with too. Interesting. I like it. So if a node dies, just spins up a new one. Oh yeah, I like it. This is sounding like cloud computing at home. I love it. Sounds awesome. XOR. Techno Tim, I think I made some progress, but I still can't get to the Rancher URL. I think I'm not getting a certificate. Oh, so we talked about this in Discord. I sent you a couple commands. Yeah, man. The only thing I can think of is make sure that Cert Manager is up and running and has a certificate. If you do expose it on MetalLB directly, run those commands. See when you exposed it on MetalLB, did it actually expose it on an IP that you expect? And so I think you can run that. I forget what it was. System kube control something. System O wide list all namespaces, all names. I forget what the command is. You can run that, and you should see in there the MetalLB exposed load balancer IP that should be your Rancher. Sorry, super specific, everyone. But yeah, he was having some troubles earlier, and we're trying to figure it out. But yeah, let me know. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, XR, dude. Appreciate it. Lou, does anyone ever wonder what Tim's neighbor think of the lights? I do. I personally do. Cause like, that neighbor knows that I stream, or I don't even think they know I stream. That neighbor knows that I have a YouTube channel. This neighbor knows nothing about me other than like, hey, we talk. Yeah, I mean, super, super awesome. Couple that lives there. Anyways, they don't know that I do YouTube stuff or anything, or stream or anything. I just doesn't come up in conversation. And I always wonder, like, what do they think is going on in that room? Because that window right there points out to their house. And, they see blue in here. They see pink at night and purple. But I younger couple, they've got to think, oh, he's a gamer. He's a gamer. He's got gamer lights, Now it's okay to have, colored lights in your house. And, I can drive down the street, and I'll see pink light over there. And I'll see purple light over there. I'll see green light. And I'm just like, gamer. You know what I mean? Whereas before I was like, what are they doing in there to where the lights need to be red and purple, But I think gaming is kind of normalizing having, these bright colored lights in your house. But anyways, hopefully they think gamer. I don't know what else they would think. They would think like, hey, he just really likes pink lights in his room for some reason. Totally fine. And actually sometimes sometimes I do set the lights like this when I'm working on stuff, because it's a little more calming than just having some white lights everywhere. So my whole life I've loved, like, this is getting weird, but I love like mood lighting, like throw a lamp over here, throw a light over here. If I'm feeling drained or feel, like I need to be energized, grab the light that was over in this corner, put it in that corner and turn it on. And now the room just feels so much different. And so now that I have adjustable lights in here with colors, I kind of do that. I play with it. But yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, but I have no idea what my neighbors think. I know two houses down. They know. They're like, Techno Tim. I'm like, hey. They even write, when they send us cards and stuff, they write it on there now. People do now. It's funny that people call me that, like, in person now. It's always been like my gamer name, or kind of my nickname in college. So, but I haven't heard it in a long time. And, I was just like, well, that's the only thing people have called me besides "Hey you," for a long time in my real name. So I'll choose that. So yeah. Penguin Airlines exposed. LOL. Yeah. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Subathon. Yeah. Sup, Tim and chat. How's it going, Penguin Airlines? Good to see you, dude. Good to see you. Thanks for the sub. Yeah. I for one look forward to the 10 timidants. Yeah. No. No, thou shalt not create 10 timidants. No, I don't like to dictate architecture. I like to just tell people what's possible and let them choose. Because, I don't like to, if people ask for my advice, yeah, I'll give it. But never take it as anything more than advice. And, mix in what you think and fill in the gaps that you might have. With things I recommend. You could take it or you could give it right back. Doesn't matter. It's kind of how I am. Pretty easy going. Dinner, time to roll. Yeah, it's getting about there. JMO, any ideas on setting up NFS client provider? I can mount the NFS share, but when I try to put the client provisioner, I always get an error. Oh, JMO, good one. Oh, real quick. Built to fire. Also, the CPUs need to be the same. Good call. Built to fire. So this is going, let me address this first because I ran into that too. So built to fire, I assume your comment that all CPUs need to be the same. And I assume that comment's about Proxmox clustering. I found that they don't need to be the same. Your virtual machines just have to support the lowest common denominator. And so I learned this, not really the hard way. It stumped me for about 10 seconds. But if you do cluster Proxmox, they don't necessarily have to be the same. They just have to support the lowest common denominator. So what do I mean by that? The minimum amount. So if you have virtual machines, let's say, and you've allocated 16 cores and you have another machine in your Proxmox cluster that only has 4 cores, when you try to move it there or migrate it there, well, it's not going to be able to spin up. So you have to adjust that virtual machine to say, well, you can only use 4 cores because that's all I can, I can't guarantee where you're going to spin up. If you spin up on another machine that has 4 cores and you've requested 16, it's not going to work. So it's the lowest common denominator. The same thing goes with CPU features too. And I know I personally do. I use, my CPU type is the host. So directly query the host, use features from the host. And for most of the time, that's going to be fine. Unless you have an older CPU or workload that requests a certain feature from a CPU, less common. But sometimes you might have to go back to a virtualized version of that CPU or emulate one. And I forget what it's called. In Proxmox, they have their own, Proxmox type of CPU that you might have to set it to. So those are some things that you might have to run into. If you have them all the same, like you said, built to fire, absolutely, yeah. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you have one server in your cluster that only has a couple cores, and then your virtual machines that are requesting more cores than that can't spin up there unless you adjust them. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. And I learned that by putting my Intel NUC in. I put my Intel NUC in. I'm like, sweet, start moving some stuff over. And then my Kubernetes nodes weren't starting. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, you were just running right before I backed you up. And it's like, oh, you're requesting more cores that are available. And on my Intel NUC, you have 4 cores. On my, my 1U servers, you have 28 threads. And so I had to kind of go with the lowest common denominator, at least when I move those there. But I don't have an HA cluster. That's the nice thing. What I do, I just adjusted the VM, set it there, and I never have to worry. He's not going to move unless I manually move him myself. So anyways. Yeah, good point, though. Good point. I forgot about that. Thank you, Built to Fire. So, JMO, any ideas of setting up the NFS client provisioner? I can mount the NFS share, but if I try to set up a client provisioner, I always get an error. That's unfortunate. So I'm a huge fan of the NFS client provisioner. So what is the NFS client provisioner? It sounds super complicated. Kind of is, but they've made it easy for you. So if you have a Kubernetes cluster, you're more than likely going to need storage. A lot of people say bind mount from the node. And, in my tutorials, I say that only because it's the easiest way to get a volume mounted without having to describe what I'm about to describe to someone who just started. But in Kubernetes, you get storage classes. You get storage classes, or you get storage that can be provisioned to you, persistent volume. So it's a way to persist data from that container somewhere. And if you're spinning up on different nodes, mounting, let's say you bind mounted it to this node, and you're here and you're happy, but then your workload ends up going to this node, and now these files are no longer on that node. So you could do something and say, bind mount on every node. It gets kind of complicated, but then those files need to be everywhere. So the solution is, okay, we'll use a persistent volume claim with a storage class. We'll put storage inside of Kubernetes. All right. And so that's where Longhorn kind of helps out. It floats around and does it for you and spins up storage nodes. So all of the nodes, whenever those workloads spin up on any node, they're like, give me my persistent volume. Give me my volume back. Longhorn's like, here you go. I'll answer. Here's your storage. And so they're all fine and happy. The NFS client provisioner, though, takes a different approach. What it allows you to do is connect, turn NFS into a storage class, single point, that you have outside of your cluster. So I have, I'm running TrueNAS out here, and I have an NFS share. It allows you to mount storage from folders in your NFS to any client that requests it. So it's really cool. So it solves the problem of, okay, this node has storage mounted, but when it hops on this node, it goes to try to request storage from the NFS client provisioner. And it's like, hey, I know you. You were just over here. I'm going to move over here too, and I'm going to mount your storage. And then when he comes up over here, it says, hey, I need storage. I need this PVC right here. He comes here and mounts there. So it's super cool. And you can do it with a lot less resources than Longhorn, because you don't need any additional nodes. You don't need to spin up Longhorn nodes in your environment. You use the NFS client provisioner that is an NFS share that has credentials that can be mounted to any Kubernetes cluster. It's super, super powerful and super easy and so underrated, and I'll have something on it soon. So the problem you're running into is it's not working, because I have not run into it not working. It's been so reliable for me. And so I will say the other cool thing, while we're on this, I'm going to geek out on persistent volume claims. Like, who would ever do this? The other cool thing about it is that not only is that storage stored on that NFS server, mine's on TrueNAS, it creates subfolders for every single workload. And it's really cool, because why is that cool? Well, if they're stored there in subfolders, you can back all those subfolders up. You can back them up, you can inspect them, you can explore them, you can cat them out and look at the details inside. Works great for certificates, for any storage. And so now all of a sudden, now you have a pretty robust storage solution, albeit it's not very fault tolerant because you only have one NFS server. There are ways around that. But the nice part is now it's not locked inside of something like Longhorn or on the nodes itself. It's locked inside of your NAS, or however you do NFS, that you can get to, that you back up, that maybe you have synchronized to another TrueNAS server, however you do NFS. So it's super powerful and lots of visibility. The other cool thing is if you ever accidentally delete, and this is a setting that's on by default, they thought of it all. If you ever accidentally delete that persistent volume, it will then automatically, it won't delete that folder. It'll mark it as archives. So super cool, super powerful stuff. Anyways, if you're getting an error, I'm not sure. That was a great segue into me explaining the NFS client provisioner, because I really love it. But I haven't had any problems with it. I do have, I think in Discord, so JMO, I have I think a really quick guide on how to set it up. I mean, it's just, if you think about it, it's just going to be applying a Helm config, applying some credentials and your server, and you should be up and running. There's a couple of caveats, and something I've had to learn from doing it too. Is your storage server on the same VLAN or the same network as your Kubernetes cluster? And so these are things that now I have to figure out. If I was using Longhorn, I wouldn't have to worry about it, right? My storage is floating around in my cluster, right? You can communicate, no firewall rules, no VLANs. They're on the same exact network. Well, now my storage server, my NFS server, is on a totally different network, a totally different VLAN, and has a lot of firewall rules in place because, my data network is pretty sensitive and I'm pretty picky about what gets to communicate with that. Mostly nothing. Unless it's my workstation or, very explicit rules to allow connections. So I don't know if you thought of this, but if you have your storage segmented from your Kubernetes cluster, you're going to have to poke some firewall rules. And what I would recommend, and it gets kind of tricky, going back to, that any node, any agent, I would say, or possibly even server that needs persistent volumes needs to communicate with your NFS server. So create a firewall rule for all of your nodes, put them all in one, bundle them up, create a firewall rule that allows you to communicate with your NFS server. So probably do a group of IPs, so one to many. Group of IPs has access to one IP on the other side. And then I would highly encourage you to even, constrict that even more to just ports for NFS. I forget what they are. I could probably look at my firewall rules later. And I don't know if that's the problem you're having, but that's the problem I have every now and then. I'll add another node. I'll totally forget that, oh yeah, he can't get persistent volumes because he doesn't have access to, my NFS server. So I need to add him to my firewall group, which, that's one of the downsides. And in Longhorn, I didn't have to worry about that because they all lived in the same cluster itself. But, on NFS client provisioner, my storage doesn't live in the same network. So anyways, things you'll have to think about. If you need help with that, ping me in Discord. I've been through it. Not the Hoover carpet cleaner, yeah. Oh yeah, the carpet cleaner for sure. vSphere is licensed, I think, for managing ESXi servers. There might be a free version for all. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't, like I said, haven't looked at it for a long time. You gonna add more expensive channel points? All my messages are about to glow. All right, Dreadstone, how's it going? Good to see you. Destroyer, I'm gonna cruise through what I can because it is getting late. I didn't realize I'm having so much fun. I even put maybe short one, and it's turning into a long one, but that's totally fine. Destroyer. In real life, I like it. Loving the content, Tim. Inspiring. Was wondering how you handle getting SSL certs for your self-hosted services. Good segue into what I'm going to talk about real soon. So the way I do it now for my self-hosted services is within my Kubernetes cluster for my public-facing stuff. I'll just say it's not, nothing too fancy, but anything that can be reached from outside lives in my Kubernetes cluster. And then I use a combination of traffic and MetalLB to expose that. MetalLB being the Kubernetes like cloud load balancer, traffic being the reverse proxy, along with some other networking utilities, to resolve those host names. But also traffic then can do Let's Encrypt to get SSL certificates. Because it's my reverse proxy, that's where that SSL is terminated right there. So that's what I use. I use traffic, which has Let's Encrypt with MetalLB to expose it to the outside world. And so that's how I expose public stuff. And then I do something entirely different for wildcard certs internally. I'll have something on that soon. But that's how I've kind of separated my cluster. And this was an evolution. I was like, okay, am I going to run some of my internal private stuff in the same, cluster as some of my public stuff? My gut instinct was no, but my Kubernetes, sense was like, yes, I'll solve this with namespaces or solve it some other way. And I'm still debating what I do with those. But the long of the short is, the short of the long, I don't know. Long story short, use traffic. You'll eventually, I think if you're going to start using SSL for internal and external stuff, I think you'll have to play the same game or go through the same exercise that I went through is where does it live? And do you really want internal traffic hopping into your Kubernetes cluster just to get an SSL cert only to come back out? And what do those firewall rules look like? And they're not pretty. It's not pretty. Gets kind of messy. And so you might want to separate that someday. But anyways, you might not be asking that far down the road. I'm just foreshadowing. These are the things you'll have to consider because some people want to do SSL for stuff publicly in, Kubernetes and also do the same thing for it for internal stuff. And you absolutely can. I went down this route of creating 2 entire instances of traffic an internal load balancer and an external load balancer, all in Kubernetes. Still have it there. And I still do that. But I do something else too. So anyways, yeah, great question. Farhan, the more I stay around, the more these streams shapes into some Q&A on steroids. Cheers, man. 2 a.m. Catch you some other time. Dude, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Dude, great questions. Have a good night. Thanks for hanging in there. 2 a.m. Oof. Xavier Donate, sorry, I'm totally destroying that. And DNS resolution needs to be properly set too. Yeah, it's always DNS if you have some problems. Uthug Muffin. Network automation, building web services to handle dynamic provisioning of network devices on boot. ZTP. Nice. That sounds interesting. ZTP, different protocol. It sounds like a protocol I haven't heard unless it's an acronym for a product, but that's pretty interesting stuff. Pretty low level stuff. Sounds fun. Tom Lobby. Tom Lobby. All the technology and self-hosting has become a burden for me. Oh, that's no good. Always something that needs to be fixed and mended. Consumes way too much of my daily life. Yeah, I know what you mean. Hopefully you find a sweet spot there. There is a sweet spot where, you'll find something that's stable that needs less care and feeding. And so, Kubernetes sometimes needs a lot of care and feeding. Then there's other times where it needs absolutely zero, like the last 3 days for me. And it's usually longer. And the only reason why I'm saying 3 days is because I made some changes a couple days ago and I have a brand new cluster. But, on some of my Kubernetes stuff, I've gone weeks, and I haven't done anything, and I haven't even thought about, is my service still running? It's just always there. Arguably, I could say the same thing about plain old Docker, or you could say the same about a VM. I would even argue Docker is a little bit more stable because it's going to restart that service for you automatically, right? Or on a VM, if your process dies, it's gone until you reboot it or restart that process. So in Docker, Docker's super stable too, depending on what you're running. So maybe that's a good path for you. Just spin everything up, Docker, run Portainer, and then you don't have to worry about services kind of dying. At least the Docker API will restart that service over and over. Doesn't mean that it's actually a good thing, but it'll actually take care of that for you. Meyerhill. Struggling with MySQL and Node-RED for days, just trying to get a Zigbee sensor data into my MySQL DB, but the plugin for MySQL is not working correctly. So I tried to write a Python script, but it's not working out. Wow, that sounds pretty frustrating. MySQL Node-RED. I've done a lot of MySQL, very little Node-RED, and I've done some Zigbee stuff, but very little Python too. So you're in uncharted territory for me. I hope it works out. Treadstone, what are you struggling with? Oh, all right. Thank you. Thanks for, Treadstone, thanks for the help there. Yeah, I totally agree. Cause I think there's a sweet spot for everyone. And sometimes, the thing about having a home lab, at some point I have to treat some of my services like production. All right. It's my home production. Right. And I experiment a lot in my home production cause I think, it's just home. And then like you mentioned, I think some of your pains is oh man, now I'm just I'm reacting and fixing and struggling with getting things working all the time. Maybe that's a good, outside of things I recommended, maybe, trying a different platform, maybe you spin up a play environment, kind of what we talked about earlier, where it's, it's just an environment where you can 100% experiment. And then there's an environment where you don't really touch. And maybe one's Docker and one's Kubernetes. Maybe they're both Docker. Maybe they're both Kubernetes. Maybe they're two different servers. But one where you can experiment a little bit more, and then one where things are a little bit stable. Lower environments. Same reason why enterprises do this thing. They have, dev, staging, play, test environments, and then they have production environments. A little bit slower to change, a lot more stable. A little more controlled, and then you have the Wild West, which is everything else. So maybe you need a Wild West environment at home. Arguably, I have one tiny one, and I test most of my stuff in production. Home production, not real production at work. No, home production. I do a lot of experimenting there, but I've had some experience. And I know where the landmines are, and I know where the dragons be sometimes, but there be dragons in a lot of this stuff. So I apologize. Hopefully it works out. I think it's great when you get it right. It's very frustrating when you don't. And it's just like, oh, if I could only get this to work, especially when it's a platform that you want to build stuff on. That's tough because then it becomes a non-starter. So anyways, I sympathize and I empathize with you. Just keep at it. Keep at it. Othug Muffin. The dumb-dumbs think that everyone goes into a container and even force it when they really shouldn't. Yeah. I've been there. I've been there a lot. So I don't know if I'm a dumb-dumb, but I usually lean towards a container first. Obviously that won't work for everything, but I lean towards it first because one, it's easy to spin up, easy to tear down, comes with all its dependencies. It reboots itself from Docker. If something goes wrong, the process restarts. It's easy to know what to back up because of bind mounts. There's so many things that come with containerization, I should say, not only Docker, that it's hard for me to go to a plain old VM. It's hard, because I'm like, oh, what was that one thing I installed? The next time I do this, I need to reinstall that one thing again. Or, I did an apt update and it updated some dependency of libcurl, and now this thing is broken, and now I need to install some other version of libcurl for this to work, or you name it. Or I've accidentally, on my security updates, patched MySQL, and now MySQL's broken for my database. I'm over that. And you get none of that with containerization. So, and not every process is containerized. Not every process is, and there are things that, like you say, should be containerized, and then there's a can you versus should you. Most of the tried and true stuff that is already, you probably can and you probably should. There are things that people do just to see if it'll work, just to see if it'll work. I think somebody containerized OBS. I would love for it to work, but not architected in a way that it should work, but I think someone has it working. Same with Blue Iris. Like someone totally figured out how to get that to work. I wish Blue Iris was a first class, containerized piece of software, and people have figured it out. But it goes back to can you versus should you, and how well is it going to work, and then how much pain are you going to be willing to deal with? If it wasn't meant to be in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't a lot of great work to get it to work. But do I really want to expose a VNC port and then VNC into this weird, VNC session to then do stuff on, on Blue Iris? Not really. I just wish and it all boils down to just not being Linux first. But anyways, I totally agree. I think the things that have already been containerized and have been battle tested, I'm totally fine going that route. And I have created custom containers myself where, I really think should I be doing this or should I lean into something that already exists? Like I said, for most of the things that are out there that have already been, probably a good candidate. Then there are some experimental stuff that tread lightly, try it, but who knows? Anyways, Nova Coney. Hey Tim, Novak, the guide. Oh, Novak, there we go. Hey Tim, Novak, the guide on the code channel working in Discord bot. So thanks for all the help and thank you so much. Novak, hey, no problem. We were going at it last night. Sorry, I fed you some bad code. So Novak, was in Discord. He was actually working on a Discord bot and he had some problems, and I was trying to help him, and I gave him, I probably left him worse off than what he was before. But anyways, I'm glad you got it fixed. I totally misunderstood what you were trying to do. So I was like, yeah, try this code. And I was just basically writing code in Discord messages in Markdown. But he got it fixed. So yeah, no problem. No problem at all. I enjoy helping, especially, troubleshooting problems. Especially code stuff too. So yeah, no problem. Thanks for stopping in. Town Lobby, all kinds of stuff that requires kung fu Googling and lighthearted attacks before being able to solve. I totally agree. I feel, I can empathize with you. Like I said, right before the stream, I was trying to get something to work in Homebridge that should just work, but it doesn't work. And I'm just Googling. And then I remembered, I've tried this before. I remember this one GitHub post. It had this one person who said this one thing Now I'm like Googling, trying to find the old answer of the one thing so that I can try it again. So yeah, I'm there with you, man. I'm there with you. That's IT in a nutshell. Othug Muffin. I ran Nomad cluster at home. Kubernetes is too complex for my home. Yeah, I totally agree, for sure. Yeah, it absolutely can be. Absolutely can be. Keycoder, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Anyone use Octo DNS for DNS management? Interesting. I haven't. I need to check it out. Podcast Live Gaming. Hi, how are you? Keycoder, Tim, do you use Atom Editor? I used to. My editor has changed over the years. I'm now in VS Code, 100%. I've used everything from Notepad to kind of used Vim, basically, very little. I've used Atom. I've used, what else have I used? Sublime. I've used Visual Studio, Xcode, WebStorm, everything by IntelliJ. But I'm on VS Code. VS Code for me has just been, it's been such a delight, I guess. Just this plugin architecture, huge community support. So anyways, I have used Atom, and I think Atom is great. Don't get me wrong, Atom's great, and they are still doing this too. Atom is GitHub's child. I'll say that, GitHub's editor, and it's powered by, I think, the same engine that powers GitHub's forums and comments and code review type stuff. So all their web editor stuff. So yeah, super awesome. The on-ramp for editor was kind of steep when I first started. I didn't know what plugins to install and didn't know how to make my editor more of an IDE. And when VS Code came in, I was like, okay, this feels like Visual Studio and which, good or bad, it feels like Visual Studio and Atom got together and it was all the good parts from both of them. So I've been there ever since. It's been pretty fun. I enjoy it. Every now and then there's quirks with everything, but I think it's pretty good. Sanchowski, more like spoofing GPU ID since the enterprise cards got the same hardware like consumer ones. No need to be afraid to guess. All right, yes, I like it. All right, I'm gonna go through. I know it's getting late, so I'm gonna look at these real quick and just see if I can totally. I'm gonna cherry pick some of these. What's your take on ubiquity breach? Tough, sucks, happens to everyone. Not making excuses. Poorly managed. And some people are alluding to that it was worse than it is. I don't know. Will we ever know the truth? Who knows? But at the same time, not making excuses. It's going to happen. It's going to keep happening, and it's going to be someone else. It's going to be someone else next week. And I'm not going to start naming companies like it could happen to this company, but think of any big company, and it's going to happen. It's just the nature of the beast of having lots of a huge user base. Having a huge user base with lots of sensitive information draws a lot of people who would like to get a hold of that user base's information. And so think of anything you use right now is a target. And this is not new news, but it's definitely, and it won't be new news, and it'll just continue to happen. It's how those companies, react to it, and how transparent some of their policies are. That I think will make the difference. And an early indication that something happened, as well as the severity and how they react to it, is going to tell you, whether or not that company is making good choices. So I don't know. It sucks. It totally sucks. I buy the products. Yeah, it totally sucks. Suck with any company I bought a product from. Or put my information into. But yeah, for sure. Make sure you cordon and drain them first. Yeah, Vasi, good call. Node removal. Yeah, good call. Totally good call. Because then you'll end up in a weird state where that node thinks that it had these workloads on there before. Good call. Cordon and drain them first before you delete them. Good call. Skill point. Hi, I'm currently set up my cluster and need auth. Also, I asked in Discord, what would you suggest for authorization for stuff where probably it doesn't even have anything in that regard? Thalia, Pomeranium, or something else. Depends on auth. That's such a big topic. You need my cluster and you just need auth. So, I mean, does your cluster need auth? This is a tough question. Because do you need auth for, to protect the services that are behind it? or do you need auth to connect to your cluster? It's a huge topic. A lot of people choose a lot of different things. I think like Keycloak is a huge one for authorization that I think people, or authentication and authorization that people choose. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, there are paid products, which I'm not going to mention, that I've used in the past, but I assume you're looking for, more open source ones or more ones that are friendly with Homelab type stuff. I have to look. I'm not talking about IDP. I have to do some research. Like I'm not a great, I haven't had a ton of experience yet doing authorization for my services. Don't get me wrong, I have authorization, but I usually lean into third party. It's a Google, it's a GitHub, it's a, whatever social provider that does the authentication for me. And then some of the authorization, I guess they would do too with scopes, but it just depends on your services. I'd like to explore this more. I just need some more time and a little more criteria, because I'd like to know what you're trying to protect and how, and do you have roles? Do you have scopes set up? And, what resources are you trying to protect? Is it just authentication, get in the door, or is it authorization too? Like you can get in the door, but you can't get in this room, those types of things. Like auth in front of an app. Yeah, there we go. That doesn't have its own auth. All right. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, if the app doesn't have its own auth, yeah, you can do, OAuth type I should say authentication. So 401s, letting them through the door. Basic auth is also there too. Probably not the greatest, but better than wide open. So yeah, let me know. Betsy, we use RBAC Manager to limit the access our dev team has to our own clusters. Yeah, RBAC for sure. Absolutely. I like it. They can just list pods, tail logs, but cannot delete pods. I like it. Skill point. I'm not talking about cluster access itself, but access and authorization to apps running inside the cluster. Yeah, this is kind of going, yeah. There we go. You guys are figuring it out. I'll let you guys figure this out for sure. Yep, Apache reverse proxy. Basic auth. You got it. Yeah. So basic auth is going to be like the bare minimum. It's going to be the bare minimum, but it's way better than just having, exposing a public service and being like, yep, anyone who can get to this page can see this page, But you might want to look, after you get that in place, that's a good, gap solution, but I would look into to more things too. I think Keycloak is one that a lot of people are super hyped up about right now. Let's see. Deadly Dragon, back to the stuck nodes. Got it fixed. They were in kube control, vSphere, but were indeed stuck in Rancher. If you do a Helm upgrade to the same version of Rancher, it kicks Rancher to recheck, and now they're gone. Nice, clean UI node again. Nice, yeah. I've run into a few things where I've had to reinstall basically the same version of Rancher on top of itself. Probably a bug in their system or maybe something I did, but yeah, for sure. Penguin Airlines, I'll geek out with you on PVCs. All right. Yeah, I totally was geeking on persistent volume claims. All right, guys, I do have to wrap it up. I'm 100% going to look for direct mentions. And there's my name right there. If you have time to put together the vSphere Packer stuff, would love a demo for you. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that the Packer stuff has a Proxmox plugin. Yeah. If you have some documentation or a blog post or anything, post it in our community projects. I would love to see it and read through it for sure. Do uni projects count? Yeah, for sure they do. VS Code is the ultimate tool. VS Code is the best. All right, yeah, I totally agree. I love their product. I met some of the people. I've seen them in person. I didn't get to physically meet them, but some people said, there's the people who build VS Code. And I was like, yes, I wanted to go and high five them all at Microsoft. Penguin Airlines, VSCs and Atom are both owned by Microsoft, right? Oh yeah, good point. 100% they are. Yeah, because Microsoft owns GitHub. Yeah, 100%. I was like, oh yeah, 100%. Yep. And so, Atom, if my memory serves me correctly, is the web editor when you edit code on GitHub. It's using the Atom engine, and I think that's why then they created the desktop editor to kind of share that. But yeah, good point. Yeah, 100%. JMO, very big problem in my VMs. How do you guys give it interesting names? Oh yeah, I go with space names. I start just space names, and mine are sprinkled everywhere, all over the place. But I choose some kind of theme, space. Some people do comic books. I've done planets before, but then I run out of planets. I've done galaxies, but then I run into galaxies that don't have a really interesting name. They end up having a bunch of numbers and letters. I've been all over the place. Now it's just generic space stuff. And I'm like, does this sound cool? Okay, it does. But yeah, choose something you're interested in. Games, characters in games, they're all fun. Or worlds in games, or worlds in books and movies. It's so fun, so fun. Deadly Dragon, AAA, like Tim said, large topic if you want to use a solution that covers it all rather than splitting it out. Yeah, thank you. Vastly, great stream. Thank you so much. What are thee working on? Mafni, yeah, what am I working on? I'll wrap up there. Spaceships, yeah. Yeah, spaceships for sure. Yeah, yeah, from Star Trek, absolutely. Pick any genre or anything you're generally interested in and just go deep and just name your servers that. I've always been in the camp of don't name your servers. Don't get me wrong. Naming conventions in an enterprise environment are good because you can look at that server and say, this is what it does. Because most likely what that server does won't change often, right? Exchange 01 is probably, this is probably a mail server, But at home, I don't want to go through and name them what they do because what they do might change. I'm not saying I'm just going to repurpose this server wholesale, but sometimes I spin them up and it's just kind of a play server, but I set up DNS and I set up DHCP reservations and they already have a name in Proxmox and all this stuff. I don't want to redo that. So I don't repurpose my server. I just blow it away, recreate it. And I'm like, okay, this is its new role. So that's why I name mine fun things at home. And that's why if I had some servers that lived around for a long time, like something named Exchange 01, then I would be like, or SharePoint 01, I would be like, yeah, I should probably name that according to what it is. I name mine fun ones. It's super fun to do. I encourage you to do it because then, you get to get to be kind of creative in IT, which sometimes is kind of rare. So get creative with your server names. I've always done it for sure. So what are they working on, Mafni? Good question. I'll wrap it up with that. What am I working on? Yeah, good question. As you guys know, I wrapped up rebuilding my entire cluster last week and a half. I actually did it all in one day. I rebuilt my whole entire cluster, moved to etcd, I wish there was a way to re-image it, but recreated my cluster from scratch. I think last night I fixed the final bug in moving to my new Kubernetes instance based on etcd. Had nothing to do with it, but it was a switch from where my storage lived, and I had a bug with WordPress that I could not figure out. Last night I figured out that final bug, so I'm over it now. I mean, it's running, it's stable. Like I said, had 0 alerts. I don't have to worry about if things are running or not. It's been super stable. Will it always be that way? Probably not. So what am I working on? I was kind of thinking about that this morning. Like, what's the next big thing for me? I don't know what the next big thing for me is. I think I have lots of little things I need to clean up. Like I said, like last night and this morning, wrote a little bit of code. I'm always going to create content. There are things I want to do with my blog I haven't been able to do yet. There are channel rewards for my channel that I want to create and do and experiment with. I haven't had time. So maybe I'll get to some of that. But lots of little things, probably kind of boring. But for the rest of the day, it's going to be hang out with my wife, eat some pizza. She makes homemade pizza every Saturday. So it's pretty awesome. And then tomorrow is probably record. That's kind of my schedule. So anyways, that's it for me. Dude, thank you guys so much for hanging out. We went every time I put short one up there, and it ends up being a pretty long one. Greatly appreciate hanging out. I greatly appreciate the comments and the interactivity. I'm sorry if sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get your comments, but I will. If you stick around, absolutely I will. And most of the time, I will even read out all the ones towards the end, just because if you stick around long enough, I'll absolutely get to it. So I appreciate you sticking around. There were bits, there were subs, there were gifted subs, there were resubs. Dude, thank you guys so much. Like I say a lot and probably enough, I greatly appreciate like everything you do. Just being here in the channel and getting to talk about topics that that swim around in my head, all week is more than enough just to be able to connect with people and talk about the things that I'm super passionate about. It's my servers in my basement, running some services, and self-hosting some stuff in my home lab. It's super awesome. And it's rare that I ever meet anyone that does the same thing as me. So being able to talk about this once a week, especially when, things are still kind of on lockdown and I don't get to see people that much, it's as good as it gets. So I appreciate it. if you have any more questions, if you want to continue the conversation, if you just want to connect with other people, absolutely connect on our Discord. We have a Discord server full of lots of people who are interested in a lot of things and people who are a lot smarter than me in a lot of topics. So I encourage you to join. And I'm pleasantly surprised every day of the knowledge that people have, not only in tech, but the other things that I'm just like, wow, this is pretty impressive. Not that I thought anything different. It's just like I'm just amazed every day at all the things that people know and care about and love to share. So I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, for joining, and thanks for posting the link. I encourage you to join. I will be back on next Saturday, but I'll always be on Discord and I'll always be on Twitter. So feel free to ping me. I appreciate it. So yeah, you guys have a great weekend. Thanks so much again. Be good to each other. Take care.